Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People Stories. Today we have a very special episode for you, a compilation of some of the best entitled people stories we've read over the past year. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a few hours of the most entitled people you've ever heard of. And by the way, Karen assured me that for every thumbs up this video gets, she won't try to get anyone fired for an entire week. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. I told my entitled daughter that if she wanted me to raise her baby, then she shouldn't have gotten pregnant. I'm 52, male. My daughter, Amanda, who's 27, and her husband, Chris, who's 25, got married a few months ago. Amanda has lived on her own since college, but still is in the general area. Currently, Amanda and Chris aren't that focused on their future, mostly on having fun and doing things while they're still young. There's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion, and I think that young people should have that kind of period in their life, especially after lockdown. I got a call from Amanda. She and Chris told me how they've taken several tests and confirmed that Amanda is pregnant. They would be hosting an announcement dinner, but wanted immediate family to know right away. They could barely wait as they had been trying since they were married. Note that this was an intended pregnancy. I told them I was thrilled to be a grandpa. The dinner party happened last week, and the announcement was met with only happiness and excitement. Chris and Amanda were talking to a friend, and Chris made a comment along the lines of, "Good thing that Bobby, me, will while we're at work." I was confused and asked what they were talking about. Amanda revealed that she and Chris were expecting me to always watch the baby while they were working, and so they could have fun time while not working. Now, I love my kids and will never regret being their dad, but I didn't sign up for a new baby. I'm done with all that. I want to enjoy my retirement and be free without any kids. I explained this to Amanda and Chris, also that there are many great daycare options in the area. Amanda began to cause a scene because, "You told me that you were thrilled to be a grandpa." I responded that exactly, I was thrilled to be a grandpa, not a parent to this baby. She said that I should help out since I don't have to worry about working. I receive a pension, and that she's young and these are supposed to be the best years of her life, and she thinks it's unfair that she and Chris' life should be all about a baby. I was very frank and responded that, "Amanda, of course you and Chris' life is going to be all about a baby. That's what it means to be a parent. You should not have gotten pregnant if you just expected someone else to raise your kid." Amanda yelled at me, "Don't be surprised when I put you in a crappy nursing home." My son, Michael, says that I was harsh in my delivery, but not my message. My son, Nathan, agreed that Amanda and Chris are expecting too much, and it was irresponsible to purposely get pregnant when they believe they don't have time to raise a baby. My sister, Sandra, however, told me my comment was callous, and I haven't raised a newborn in 20 years and don't realize how much harder being a parent has gotten. And I can agree to start providing at least 4 days of childcare per week, then go from there. Multiple family members are agreeing with Sandra, so I'm looking for some unbiased perspectives on here. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. I have 17 grandbabies and have raised several of them. Helping and raising are two very distinctive different things. Enjoy your grandkid, but do not get wrapped up in the raising of him or her. Trust me, it doesn't stop at 4 days a week. Not the jerk. If you can't put your baby first, you're not ready to be a parent. I don't even think your delivery was callous. They intentionally got pregnant and planned on relying on a parent who has not even been consulted to raise their kid so that they can enjoy the best years of their life. This screams irresponsible, and she probably shouldn't be a parent if she's not ready to make her life about her own baby. I'm also sorry, but Sandra is just being an enabling lunatic. Child rearing has never been easy. Every generation has different struggles. If she feels so strongly that you refusing to be a parent all over again is making you a jerk, then maybe she can volunteer for the job of being a free babysitter since she's willing to dump the responsibility on you. Tell your daughter you'll save the best years of your life for living as a grandpa. She won't have enough money to take care of her own kid, much less a nursing home. Your daughter seems to think she's a Kardashian. Oh wait, even they watch their own kids. You're not obligated to provide childcare for someone else's kid, period. Sandra suggesting you start at a minimum of 4 days per week of childcare is borderline delusional. Your daughter's response of threatening to put you in a crappy nursing home if you don't provide her with full-time unpaid childcare so she could enjoy being in her late 20s despite the fact that she's been actively trying to get pregnant for a while is more than a little out of touch. That suggests that she's either massively immature, entitled, or most probably both. Not the jerk. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his daughter? Please let us know. People who try to put the responsibility of raising their kids onto others don't even deserve to have kids. My first boss and how he got the whole team every certification available. When I turned 14 years old, I got my first summer job and had one of the best bosses I'd ever had. I recently found out that, unfortunately, my mentor and someone I would consider a friend, John, passed away. Although it's been well over 20 years, I still use the lessons learned and the work ethic he passed on to me. Although at times he could be hard, he was more than fair and always did the right thing for those that worked for him. This is the story of John versus the new president. Before I get into this story, I need to give some background and context on John. John was the textbook all-American boy. John had attended a prestigious boarding school somewhere in New England and eventually attended Yale back in the late 50s and 60s, and was not only a scholar, but a three-sport athlete. He played football, he boxed, and he was the captain of the track and field team. Fast forward to when this story takes place, and John was still in phenomenal shape for a late 60s, early 70s man. John opted to move out to the country, start a family to follow his passion, which was teaching at the local high school and coaching high schoolers in various sports. Obviously, he was the high school football coach, taught track and field, he was an outstanding shot put athlete, and could run the mile and many other long distances. As a teacher, he had the summers off and became a lifeguard at the local town beach, eventually becoming the captain of the lifeguards. Over time, he developed standards for the town, county, state lifeguards to pass. He really transformed what was a ragtag style of lifeguards into a full-fledged official lifeguard corps, training academy, and set the standards for what is still used today. John was eventually hired to run the lifeguards and manage an entire private beach club instead of working for the town beach. One of the biggest challenges of this, since it was a private beach club, John now reported into a president of the beach club who oversaw how things were run. I started working for John as a helper on the beach and then eventually a lifeguard, and for the first couple of summers, things were great. The president of the beach club took pride in having the best staff and making sure that lifeguards were well paid, and to his credit, safety was the utmost priority. This private beach club certainly catered to the more wealthy clientele who wanted a nicer club instead of going to the public beach. Some of the advantages were the amenities, which were lockers, cabanas, private parking, a very nice restaurant that served great food and drinks. This was one of the few beach clubs that also had the ability to serve alcoholic beverages. One of the good things John had instituted was that any returning members of the staff from the previous summers automatically got a raise. This ensured that staff returned the next summer, avoiding a lot of retraining and, as you can imagine, growing pains with the new staff. What was even better was that if you returned multiple summers, you still got an additional raise. Most summers, this was $1 or $2. As an example, I started out at $7.25 at 14 years old. This was back in the late 90s. And by the time I was in college, I was making almost $15 an hour. Typically, the president of the club serves a term, which is a few years, and when his term was up, the new president was ushered in. Upon taking office, the new president loudly proclaimed that he wanted to ensure that the club had fiscal responsibility, and he would be personally going over the books with a fine-tooth comb. His first order of business was to cut everybody's pay all the way back to minimum wage and fire most of the lifeguards. Now, as noted above, the staff was there for a long time, knowing most of the members and how to run the place. Prior to the start of the summer, upon learning that their hourly wage would be cut, most of the senior staff immediately left and were quickly hired elsewhere. The lifeguards were spared at the appeal of John to ensure safety. Although some senior guards left for other beaches and pools, John was able to convince the lifeguards as he would take care of things. On to the malicious compliance. While John agreed to have the staff take the pay cuts, he convinced the new president that any lifeguards with additional certifications would get $2 an hour on top of the base minimum wage. The new president obviously didn't consider that any of these lifeguards would put in the effort or if it was feasible to get any certifications in time for the summer season, and he agreed to the plan. As you can imagine, John basically established the process and curriculum for becoming a lifeguard and personally trained, and hired most, if not all, of the trainers in the town and county. John was also a volunteer fireman and knew all the EMS personnel, and not surprisingly, had either taught them in school or hired them as lifeguards in their past lives. John quickly called in favors from every trainer and certifier across the country who were more than happy to repay all the favors John had done for them in the past. Most waived the training fees and expedited the training sessions for the lifeguards, and they wanted to promote safety for the community. Prior to the start of the Memorial Day weekend and what is effectively the unofficial start of summer, all of his lifeguards and new staff became certified in pretty much every single possible certification that existed at the time. I mean, I'm talking crazy, complete overkill and unnecessary certifications for a regular lifeguard. We got trained as either EMS and EMTs. Although lifeguards had to be certified in CPR, we retrained and got our CPR certifications again. Life-saving ocean and pool rescue techniques, certified swimming instructor, certified food inspector, the club had a kitchen, certified county pool operator license, certified sanitary inspector, cleaning the bathrooms. We even had one guy who wanted to learn how to scuba. The county's firefighters had a water rescue team who coincidentally were certified scuba instructors. Most of us guards became certified divers, open water divers, deep water rescue divers, the whole works. I could go on and on about all the certifications we got. The lifeguards not only went back to their original wage, but in most cases went well above what their previous wages were. At 18 years old and back in the 90s, I personally went from making $15 an hour to $27 an hour, all due to the certifications and trainings. It took a month or so for the fallout to happen. While the new president tried to renege on the deal, John was smart enough to have a formal arrangement in place, and there was nothing the new president could do besides complain about it. He winded up resigning his position to spend more time with his family at the beach. We rarely saw him around that summer, and I think he eventually stopped coming altogether, opting to join another club. John made nice with the new president and explained his philosophy on training and keeping staff. The new president agreed, and some of the senior staff winded up coming back with the promise of their original wage. A few weeks ago, I heard from friends and former colleagues that just at the start of the summer season, John passed away in his sleep of natural causes at the ripe age of 91. He was still working, although not as much in the past. It was more of a I want to keep busy type of thing than a need to work. Every morning, he would take out the lifeguard's rowboat and get some exercise in. After all, he was a certified rowing instructor. Rest in peace, John. You were the best. Am I the jerk for calling my hot-tempered guy coworker emotional to embarrass him into calming down? So I'm an engineer and working on a team with 7 decently chill guys and 1 guy with anger issues. Like, he can't just have a respectful disagreement. He'll raise his voice and yell and get up close to your face. I can't stand it. So I started by just complaining to my boss about it, and he brushed it under the rug, saying he's just like that. And if I thought he was bad now, I should have seen him 10 years ago before he mellowed out. It makes me wonder what he was like 10 years ago, because he sure ain't mellow now. It's also a small enough company that there's no HR, only the corporate management, which doesn't help. So I took a different approach. I stopped calling him angry or calling what he was doing arguing or yelling. I just swapped in the words emotional or throwing a tantrum or having a fit. I was kind of hoping if I shift his reputation from domineering, big man vibes to emotional and tantruming, weak, sad baby vibes. So I started just making subtle comments. Like if I had a meeting with him and he got a temper, I'd mention to the other people, "Wow, it's crazy how emotional Jay got. I don't know how he has the energy to throw a hissy fit at 9 a.m. I'm barely awake." Or when my boss asked me to recap a meeting he missed, I told him, "Dan, Jack, and James had some really great feedback on my report for this client. Jay kinda had trouble managing his emotions and had a temper tantrum again, but you know how he gets." Or when a coworker asked why he was yelling, I'd say, "Honestly, I don't even know. He was getting so emotional about it, so he wasn't speaking rationally." I tried to drop it in subtly, and some of my coworkers started picking it up. I don't think consciously, just saying stuff like, "Oh, another one of Jay's fits," or something. I got gutsy enough to even start saying it to his face. "Hey, I can hardly understand what you're trying to explain when you're so emotional." And again, my coworkers started picking up on it, and I even caught some of them telling him to get a hold of himself. After a while, he started to get a reputation as emotional and irrational, which I could tell upset him, but he stopped yelling at me so much. Anyway, he slipped once this week, and I just said, "I really can't talk to you when you're being this emotional." And he blew up at me, asking why I was always calling him that. I shrugged and said, "Dude, you look like you're on the verge of tears. Go look in the mirror before you ask me." And he got really angry. I suggested he might start crying. He was red-faced, angry, not tearful angry, and I could tell. I feel like a bit of a jerk for being so petty and trying to gaslight this guy into thinking everyone around him sees him as a crybaby. But it also mostly worked when the proper channels didn't. Am I the jerk for calling my coworker emotional when he got mad? Not the jerk, because he is, in fact, overly emotional. Nothing you said, except maybe the tears bit, is in any way a lie or even exaggeration. Stick to the truth. Not the jerk. Here's another statement that you can use. "Jay, why don't you step outside and take a minute to pull yourself together? We'll wait. Go on. It's okay." Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Jay? Please let us know. I'm petty, but I would have said, "What's wrong, Jay? You gonna cry? Come on, cry, baby, cry." Fiance pranked me, so I left his family's trip. My fiance's mother, Leah, doesn't like me. Honestly, I don't like her either. I've never felt this way about another human being before, but she's been nothing but awful since day one. It got to the point she was telling people she didn't even have a son and wouldn't speak to him because she dislikes me so much. I could see how depressed he was over losing her and agreed to do family therapy. Leah agreed in therapy to stop being mean to me if she didn't have to talk to me at all, so she just pretends I don't exist. There were some very strict boundaries with this. She only gets to see her son occasionally. She will have no relationship with her grandkids, and if she starts with me again, he is done with her. Leah happily agreed. Their relationship is kind of awkward these days, but I know he needs her in his life, and she is much better when we do see her. I recently agreed to go on a family trip with them. We attended a wedding out of state and spent a few days there. Leah was there, but she is very happy to not speak to me, so I wasn't worried. We were going to a water park with Leah and his two sisters, Leah's husband, and one of his sister's boyfriends. I had a swimsuit, but my fiance said he didn't think I should wear one that tied in the back because some of the rides were very intense, and he said he saw one that he loved for me when he was out with his sister. I thought that was sweet. I love wearing things I know he likes, so I wore it. Imagine my surprise when we got there and Leah had the same one. It was like something out of a movie. She stopped mid-walk and just glared at me. Everyone was laughing because they were all in on it. They saw something similar on TikTok and thought it would be funny due to how much we don't like each other. They had been trying to pull it off for a while, but Leah bought a swimsuit while on the trip, so they saw the opportunity. Her husband and my fiance were taking pictures of us. Leah was upset. I was about to cry. Leah wasn't happy but got over it because she does join in on the pranks and the joking in the family. I don't, so it felt undeserved. And she and her husband have much more of a playful back-and-forth dynamic, so she didn't feel so betrayed. It was still really embarrassing walking around with her. I know this is probably petty, but I also felt insecure because she has a nicer body than me, and I just didn't want to feel like there was any competition. Leah's husband even said something about, "At least I get to be married to the hot one." I decided to leave because I wasn't having fun. My fiance was upset and felt like I ruined the day, but did offer to leave with me. I said it was okay, but when I got back to the hotel, I decided to change my flight and go home. I just don't like being the butt of the joke and didn't want to be there. My fiance called me very hurt and said he felt leaving was an overreaction and now he's embarrassed in front of his family. Not the jerk. At this point, I would be rethinking the entire wedding. What kind of jerk plays a prank like this on the woman he professes to love? A successful prank is the one where all is said and done, everyone is laughing. This one humiliated you. That's not a prank, that's straight up emotional mistreatment. And Leah got over it because she enjoyed your humiliation and that her son is coming closer to the family with an act like this. Not the jerk. Honestly, the prank is the least of your problems. You're engaged to someone whose mother doesn't like you to the point where she pretends you don't exist and doesn't even speak to you, and he tolerates that. Good luck marrying this dude. You're in for a bumpy ride. Not the jerk. If that was a joke, then why weren't the ones who were the butt of it laughing? This is cruel. He and his mother actively went to therapy, created boundaries, everyone abided by them, and they do this? He's been to therapy over this relationship and he does this? He's a sick individual. So is the rest of the family. I'm sorry, I would have left too. Wow. So because his joke didn't pull off the way he thought, he's now embarrassed? You ruined his joke because of your response? Well darn, shame on you. I'm being facetious. By the way, Question to ask your ex-fiancé. What was everyone expecting with this joke? Were they expecting the both of you to laugh? What did your fiancé expect? By the way, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, apple being the sun and the tree being Leah. He's exhibiting her behaviors in his complete disregard for you. Please don't marry this person. You will always be invalidated. Your feelings mean nothing. He only went to counseling to save his relationship with his mother, not to protect you from her. He appeases his family. This is horrible. I don't know. I think you might need to get thicker skin. It doesn't seem like some awful prank. I think you might be reading too much into it. I think it would have been better for everyone if you just went along with it. Own the situation. Everyone sucks here. You're the jerk. OMG. This was an actual innocent joke and maybe a bridge for you to connect with Leah on. Your first sign you're the jerk is the fact that Leah got over it and you didn't. I wouldn't have been okay with it if you just felt uncomfortable and went home, but what really makes you the jerk is you changing your flight and leaving early. That's totally unacceptable. Honestly, this is a red flag for the family in general. I will say the joke about being married to the hot one was mean, and your husband should have piped up and said something though. Other than that, you were not the butt of a mean joke, and you way overreacted. I'm going to try to look at this from a different perspective, one where maybe your boyfriend didn't have bad intentions, but missed the mark horribly. You said his is a family of pranksters. That's how they interact. Perhaps by pulling this prank, involving two people who don't like each other, maybe they thought it would break the tension and possibly bring you into the family by including you. Don't get me wrong, that blew up in his face big time, as it should have. It was an absolutely horrible thing for all of them to do, and turned out far worse than anyone thought. End of the day, boyfriend is a huge jerk, as is his family. You are not the jerk, and I'm sorry this happened to you. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or mother-in-law? Please let us know. Don't marry into a prankster family, unless you really love those kinds of people. I'm not your free babysitter. Thanks for asking though. So I have a distant friend. She's a friend of a friend type of deal. She has 3 kids. I have 3 cats. Her kids are enrolled in a camp very close to my house. Pickup for the camp is at 4 p.m. The line for pickup for the kids is 3 p.m. Yeah, it can take a really long time to pick up kids at that camp. A big old line of cars forms up every day to get the kids. It's a bit chaotic. Now here's the story. This friend of a friend has been using her lunch breaks to fetch the kids from camp. Sometimes the traffic is so bad she's late getting back to work. I'm not sure if she takes the kids with her to work or drops them off someplace, but the situation at work is getting dicey. Her boss is sick of her coming back late. Now, I live very close to this camp. My house is on the pick up your kids parade route. Friend of a friend has come up with a brilliant idea, in her eyes anyway. She's asked me to get the kids for her, all 3 of them. She would like me to take them back to my house, give them a snack or something, and wait for her to pick them up. She thinks it will be much easier to fetch them from my house than the camp, since she has to drive into the camp and I can merely walk. I said no, I'm not a babysitter, I'm not a nanny. I'm an artist, I have a job. I work from home, but I have a job. I'm not watching 3 kids under the age of 10 for unknown hours and have to provide snacks for them as well. She said that she would pay me $20 to fetch the kids. I said, no, I already have $20, so I'm good. She does not find this funny, but I sure did. She tells me she's a single mom trying to do her best. It takes a village. I'm so close to the camp. Why can't I just do this favor for her? I say, because it's not a favor, it's a job. I already have a job. I work from home. I'm an artist. Also, I don't know your kids. I barely know you. I'm not watching 3 stranger kids for anyone. That's just how that cookie crumbles. Well, she is unhappy. Very unhappy. Her next plan is to set into motion. Send in the mommy group. She gets my friend and a few other friends to email and call me. Nothing like a good mommy wagon train to circle around with. Except that doesn't work either. You see, I'm not in high school, so the whole peer pressure thing no longer applies to my life. I don't care if they like me or not. Also, I'm not a human mommy. I'm a fur baby mommy. Other fur baby mommies don't care about such things. We are a super laid-back group in general. Mommy group made some big points with me. 1. How easy it would be for me to get the kids from camp. 2. I could do arts and crafts with the kids until mom came and got them. 3. I would not be lonely during the day because I would have them to play with. 4. It would be a nice thing to do for a single mom who is struggling with a situation right now. All really interesting points that have absolutely no impact on me. Arts and crafts with the kids? Are you for real? I don't do arts and crafts. I sell art for a living. I'm not a Michaels. The kids can't help. I don't want them to. And my studio some days is a full-on wreck. I don't even let the cats in there on those days. Plus, single mommy with 3 kids is driving a new BMW. Perhaps she should have gotten a more economic car and a professional nanny. I reminded them all that if it was so easy to do this one thing, then they too can get the kids from camp. Heck, park in my dang driveway if you need, ladies. Then they can walk in and grab the kids, take them home, and do arts and crafts. Plus, friend of a friend will pay them $20 for their trouble. Not sure if that's for the week or per day, but who cares? It's like printing money at that point. All they have to do is provide the snacks and wait for her to claim the kids. Also, truly funny reply, but still not getting a laugh from the mommy group. In fact, I only got stunned silence and I think cricket sounds. I'm just not hitting my target audience with this humor. Well, it took a while for friend of a friend to see that I'm not willing to provide childcare for free, for the $20, or for the sake of the village. I also pointed out that my idea of juice boxes is a Franzia refreshing white carton, and my idea of a snack is waiting until dinner. All points she finds to be unhelpful and not practical. Sadly, friend of a friend mommy is still racing to get her kids from the camp. Turns out the mommy group folks are just too busy to fetch the kiddies for her too. Bummer, I know. I thought it would be so easy for them, since they had made such good points about me picking them up. Life moves on, camp is still swinging, the parade of cars grows longer and slower every day. Then today this happened. I'm inside my house, sitting on my couch, binging the good, the bad, and the ugly of street food vendors on YouTube. I hurt my back, so I'm leaning on a heating pad. You can see me from my living room window if you are on the parade of cars picking up their kids from the camp. My feet up on the coffee table, my cats are on the porch. My juice box, Franzia, is to the right of me. Just then, I get an angry text on my phone. I thought you said you were working. Too busy to get the kids. Looks like you're just sitting there doing nothing but watching TV. What's wrong with you? Can't you be a better friend? OMG, it's friend of a friend. Neato. To which I answer, I am working. I'm on my iPad drawing. I'm an artist. I can do that. Gee, ain't my work grand? I'm too busy to get your kids. It looks like I'm watching TV because I am watching TV. YouTube. I hurt my back, so that's what's wrong with me. Thanks for asking. And I can't be a better friend because I don't want to pick up your kids. I feel like if we got closer and communicated more, I would be obligated to fetch your babies. You do see how my way is much more convenient for me. Her. She sends me some weird emojis. Me. Are you sitting in the car outside my window right now? Her. Yes. Me. Turns around slowly. Big ol' wine glass in my hand. I smile. I wink. I lift the glass. I text. Cheers. She was not amused, still no laughs. I think I'm losing my touch. Are you laughing, dear reader? Yes, she does know I'm on Reddit. Hi, if you're reading this, thanks for making me laugh today. I told on my Karen coworker and got her fired. I, 30 male, have worked at my current employer for 3 years. Last year, in March of 2020, I received a promotion to project manager. In the beginning, everything went well, but in the last month, I've been getting more and more negative feedback. I did not understand what was going on or why people were becoming so negative about me. I was losing clients and several colleagues were really upset with me. I was at a loss. I started talking to my manager and my department head about following courses, getting monthly feedback to perform better. I just wanted to live up to the promotion I received. I felt like I was failing. Then a friend/colleague, 27 female, of mine came to me angry and demanded that I apologize for what I said. I was really confused and asked her why she was so upset with me. She explained she received an email where I was basically blaming her for the issues that I was dealing with. This was an email a client forwarded to her. I was at a loss and explained I never sent out an email like that and asked if she could show me. She did, and it had my name, my send address, and everything seemed like it was from me, but I never sent it. Then it clicked to me. My assistant, 39 female, has access to my email and has the ability to send as me. She's also the only one that has these rights. I was flabbergasted, and so much started to make sense. She was next in line for my job and did not receive the promotion. I did. Checked all her sent emails on her PC while she was out for lunch and saw dozens of emails sent as if it was from me. An email, still open on her screen, showed my email address and a written message to clients with misinformation, passive aggressiveness, and straight-up lies. These were sent out under my name. I made screenshots and sent them to myself, then went to my manager and the head of the department. They were angry. She was fired that same day. I was relieved and all of my colleagues were informed. I thought I was completely in the right here, but some people at work are complaining that I violated the company policy for snooping on her PC and violating her privacy. My boss and direct colleagues have my back, but the people that knew her, she has worked there since 2011 and I've only been there since 2018, say that I went too far. Apparently, she's a single mother with 2 kids and needed this job. I also need this job, and she was more than willing to sacrifice me for her benefit. I don't see how I could be in the wrong for defending myself. Maybe I'm just too close to the situation to see it. Did I go too far by going on her PC? Update. They just let me know that they are holding a meeting to clarify what exactly happened. They were catching on to people that weren't happy about her being fired and they want to quell any issues before they start taking root. I'll update again once the meeting is over. It's in 1 hour and 20 minutes from now. Update 2. Meeting took about 1.5 hours, and after that, I was in and out of talks with colleagues and other people. It was properly explained what she was doing and has done to me and the company. The attitude towards me noticeably changed in a positive direction, with a lot of people apologizing to me and explaining they've known her for years, were friends, and could not imagine her actually doing something like this. Honestly, I'm happy it ended up this way. HR and my boss really had my back here and preemptively handled to avoid any lingering negativity. Nothing but praise for them. I requested some time off, which was approved, and I'll be home for a week starting next week. Per my request/advice, they are also going to revise, or at least look at, the company policy regarding access to other people's emails and the other security issues I've noticed. My future stepmother demands I dye my hair to a more natural color for her wedding. I'm 19, female, and my dad is marrying his girlfriend of 5 years. She wants me to be one of her bridesmaids, as it would look great to have me up there. I'm not particularly close to her, but we're civil, so whatever, right? I agreed, telling her I'd be happy to do so, and to let me know if she needed any help with the wedding. I got a call from her last week telling me that she wants me to go to her hairdresser with her so that my hair can be made a more natural color, like my natural brown or even a deeper chestnut, as she thought that would look nice on me. I was confused by this and asked her what she was talking about. She told me I would stand out too much in the bridal party with my hair. I have waist-length hair that is an ombre of purple and pink. My hair has been this color for the past 3 years, so it's not like I sprung it on her out of nowhere just before the wedding. I told her I wasn't about to ruin the style I spent a lot of money and time to upkeep just for her wedding, and she implied that at 19, I was getting too old for such a childish style, and it was really for my own good, and reminded me how I had told her if she needed anything for the wedding to let her know. She then told me that this is what she needed. I was shocked by this, and I pointed out I had meant something like picking up party favors for the reception, dress fittings, and the like, not changing my hair. I told her I wouldn't be doing this, sorry, and if she felt that way, I just wouldn't be her bridesmaid, so I didn't stand out too much. She was upset with me, and the call ended rather coldly. I've had my dad phoning me every so often since, trying to talk me into changing my hair. He's implying it's not a big deal, and he'll pay to fix my hair after the wedding. That's not the point. It'll be difficult to get my hair back to this, and bad to recolor it. So anyway, I don't see why I have to change my style for her. I can be just a guest, though honestly, I'm not even wanting to be that now. He told me I had to be her bridesmaid, as she had told everyone I would be, and how I'd embarrass her in front of her friends and family if I refused now, as they'd think that we're not close. I've pointed out to him that we're not, and it's on her if she made it seem like we were close to people she knows. I told him if I had to be a bridesmaid, she could accept my hair as it is, or I'd just stay home. I don't know, maybe it's my inexperience with weddings, as I've never been to one before, but surely this is too much to ask of me. Maybe I should just cave in, as my dad said he'll pay to fix my hair afterwards, but the idea of going through all the work to fix it and the damage it could cause is upsetting to me. Should I just suck it up for my dad's sake? My mom is upset over this and has been fighting with my dad on the matter. Not the jerk. I'm in my 50s, and I had my hair magenta for a while and loved it. You be you. She's being ridiculous. You're not the jerk. They can invite you, the real you, or not. You can accept their invitation or not. What they don't get to do is invite an imaginary alternative version of you that they'd rather have instead of you, and then insist that you fake it. Not the jerk. The people getting married can ask someone to wear their hair up or down, or wear certain clothes, but asking hair to be cut or dyed is way too much. Also, as a woman in her 40s with purple hair, it's not childish to have hair colored whatever shade of the rainbow you like. I've refused jobs that want me to dye my hair. I'd happily refuse to participate in a wedding if doing so required me to dye my hair. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her stepmother-to-be? Please let us know. I'd tell stepmom I'm not interested in coming to your wedding at all. Thanks for showing me your true colors. Then I'd tell dad to get over it, but that's just me. Company VP was a major jerk, so VP and the company paid the ultimate price. Just hired by a small West Coast construction company to stand up and run a major East Coast regional office. The small company was just bought by a huge multinational construction company. First order of business, get a base of operations. Need a large warehouse with loading docks, office space, and good access to the Washington, D.C. area. The idea was to get a place for a short-term lease of 1 year. If needed, we could easily move to a better location without too much fuss. Lots of good space available, but it's not cheap and nothing will rent for less than 1 year. No problemo. Myself and executives of small company are okay. Financials look fine. I'm allowed to execute the lease on behalf of the company. Just need to run it by legal for a quick check. Lease is as standard and as fair as you'd expect. No surprises, no issues. Everything is on the up and up. Legal calls me and says it's no good. We need an early termination clause. All leases are required to have them. I reiterate that this is the shortest lease we can get, 12 months. Legal is adamant that they need the early term clause. Okay, time to renegotiate again. Leasing company won't budge, won't accept anything less than 12 months. I plead with legal for help. This is the in-house counsel for a huge international construction company that does work across all sectors. They spend millions on politicians and legal. Legal's response? We don't negotiate or provide lease documents. I'm like Bob from Office Space. What exactly do you do here? Legal says, legal will review the contract and approve, but you must negotiate and execute the contract. Cue malicious compliance. I need this wrapped up now, so I draft a clause that says basically this. Early termination. Tenant will have the right to terminate the lease for any reason. Tenant will be required to pay a termination fee equal to 200% of the remaining rent due on the lease. I sent it to our legal team, expecting them to revise it. Nope, completely approved. Okay to execute. I sent it to the property manager company and they were dumbfounded. I said, our legal department is okay with this. Are you? They said sure. Before a year was out, I was let go for political reasons. I tried to inform the new VP about the lease and other issues, but new VP wasn't interested in what I had to say. Okay by me. At the end of the lease, VP renewed the original contract for 4 years. A few months after VP renewed the lease, VP decided to move the warehouse. The hefty 7-figure and valid early term bill was paid without question by accounts payable. This totally crushed the VP and P&L and completely prevented any bonuses for himself and his staff that year. Legal also got a lot of heat for signing off on the original and renewal. VP was axed about 18 months later under a cloud of fraud and bribery. Yeah, there was stuff going on. Malicious compliance stage 2. As I said, this is a construction company, and on the East Coast, most states require a contractor's license to do any contracting work. This license is required to pull permits and legally do construction, and it's also part of your insurance contracts that you are in full legal compliance. So that afternoon, after I was terminated, I sent off the required registered letters to the appropriate licensing bodies in a number of states and removed myself as the designated individual. In other words, I was the general contractor on that license, meaning without me, the company is no longer a general contractor in those states. Now, the company usually has 30 days or so to backfill that individual, but it's not easy to find a person already licensed. All of a sudden, legal gets a letter from a bunch of states saying that branch of huge multinational is no longer a GC. And this gets sent to the insurance companies, which in turn immediately inform the clients that the policy is no longer valid until it is rectified. This halts all work in a number of states, even for work not part of my region, as the company was using my license to pull permits and get work without my knowledge. They did eventually fix this, but it was a scramble and was a huge black eye, and they lost a lot of work as awarded POs were assigned to properly licensed contractors. From what I heard through the grapevine, one of the hardest hit was those places they did the shady stuff and used my license without me knowing about it. Am I the jerk for not making him dinner for 2 nights after he gave all of our leftovers to his sister? To be blunt and to the point, we have a family of 5, 3 kids under the age of 11 and 2 adults. We live paycheck to paycheck, and I have to coupon and pinch pennies most weeks. I do have a garden and livestock, but it only goes so far. Limited yard space and town code. My sister-in-law is an individual who gets nearly $1,000 a month for food stamps, despite only having 1 kid and 3 working adults in the home. Plus, she has no big bills due to inheriting a paid-off home, so it's only land tax of $280 a year. She has a significant amount of money more than us due to this. She invites us down for dinner 3 nights ago and asks my husband to bring a dish. He decides he wants to do a casserole that costs easily $60 to make, considering the portions. I told him we would have to bring the leftovers home because that's a lot of money. Needless to say, no one at the dinner touched the dish he prepared. I left early because the kids were tired, and he comes home without the leftovers hours later. I asked where they are, and he said his sister asked if she could keep them because she didn't feel like cooking, and claims he felt cornered and couldn't say no. His sister is 100% aware of how hard up we are too, so the amount of selfishness and disrespect baffles me to the highest degree. Those leftovers would have fed this household of 5 for 2 days. I was livid for obvious reasons. This means that the $60 he spent was basically thrown down the drain, and we couldn't afford it. The past 2 nights, I've been making the kids dinner, not even myself, to save on food costs because I need to make up for this. $60 with my couponing at a grocery store would have been enough groceries to last us about a week and a half, but he didn't use coupons to buy the meal. He went while I was at work, and therefore we need to recoup. So yeah, I've only been making my kids food, and I personally have been eating things from the garden, cucumbers, tomatoes. He said I'm being a jerk and punishing him for wanting to help his sister, who in my opinion was simply lazy and didn't feel like cooking for her 1 kid with her free food that she gets from food stamps. But no matter how I put it, he still thinks I'm the jerk here. ETA, food stamps questions. In my state, they currently have the $450 extra per kid, school kids, because of lockdown food stamps bill passed in 2021. 1 kid is 13 and the other is 18 and goes to college. Therefore, my sister-in-law is still collecting that $450 extra for the 18-year-old because she is apparently still considered a kid until she's 21, stops going to school, or moves out. Dang, for sure not the jerk. Take care of the family first. Sorry sis, I got mouths to feed. I'm taking the casserole. That should have been it. Sorry you have to live like that. Not the jerk. I can't stand adults who don't have the courage to stand up for themselves, especially when it affects their family. It's not like you're not making food for him out of spite. He chose to make an expensive dish and he chose to not take it home. That took up the budget, and now his decisions mean less food for him. He should go to his sister's to eat. Is there a food pantry near you? I recommend checking it out and seeing if you can get something to help you through these challenging times. I'm sorry you're dealing with this and that your husband valued his pride and ego over your family's health. Not the jerk. Mail Karen and property lines. I'm a senior construction superintendent in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. The project I'm currently on is a 13-acre site smack in the middle of an extremely affluent area to the north of Dallas. 3 weeks ago, a city inspector that we'll call Joe came into the site office and said that they received a complaint about a sprinkler/soaker line being damaged during excavation for the fire lane. He, my landscaper, and myself went to investigate, discovered where a small fitting had blown out of the line. Landscaper repaired it. I went up to knock on the door to explain to them the issue and inform them of the repair. I got no answer at the door, so I left a card and a note asking them to call me. They never did. A week later, Joe comes in and mentions that they've reached out again about the noise from equipment, which is odd because anyone with heavy equipment is currently working on the other end of the property. I again went to go speak with them, got no answer at the door, and left a card again. Yesterday, in walks Joe to tell me that they're complaining about our construction fence is on their property and it's destroying their grass. The fence is 12 feet from their fence, and our specs call for it to be a minimum of 15 feet from the property line. So I pull up our CAD files on the survey plot so I can make sure we have it placed exact and realize that their wood fence is 4 feet onto our property. Their house is about 14 inches onto our property. During all of this, I get an email from the city asking me to place the construction fence squarely on the property line. The email is sent to me, the apparent homeowner, Joe, and my project manager. I brought the surveyors back out yesterday to pinpoint our property corners and give us some 10-foot offsets, reference points 10 feet east of the property line for line of sight to measure from. I knocked on the homeowner's door again and got no answer. Mind you, every time there were cars in the driveway. Fast forward to this morning, my fence crew showed up and they began moving the fence onto the property line, which takes 31 inches, 2 feet 7 inches, of their driveway, and 18 feet of the road where it ends at the property, was previously a cul-de-sac. The client finally reached out, or more accurately, came to the site office in a huff. I explained the issue, showed him the plat, and he left with some unkind words flowing from him, like diesel exhaust on a steep incline. I put a pause on the fence relocation just to soothe the wound. My PM called him, I called the city right-of-way engineer and our client. We set up a meeting that just ended. He claimed that our plat was wrong. The engineer and everyone else disagreed. The back and forth went on long enough for the client, who is an extremely laid-back and quiet gentleman, to finally speak up and basically say, "We're just going to go ahead and sell you the property you've stolen at current market value plus 10%. In this area, that's not cheap. If that's not acceptable, we'll just have you move your fence, cut out your driveway, and use the east side of your home for advertisement. Or you can back off, let these guys work, and we'll give you lifetime use of the area you currently occupy, so long as there's no more hassling of any kind." The guy asked me if we had moved the fence back out, and I told him no. I agreed to take it off his driveway, but the street and green space belonged to us. We only did what he asked us to. The engineer who asked me to move it agreed. So there it is, the story again, the fallout and conclusion. Am I the jerk for not making enough dinner for my mother-in-law and ignoring her completely? I, 29 female, live in an apartment with my husband, 31 male. Recently, my mother-in-law has come to visit since she's trying to relocate here. She's been staying with us since hotels and Airbnbs are at an all-time high. She's been here a month and it's been, well, difficult. She doesn't help with anything like cooking or cleaning. She also takes my husband's car without knowledge, so I have to give him a ride to work. She also throws stuff away she thinks we don't use. She also has been going shopping lately, buying decor. She was only supposed to stay 2 weeks to see if she likes it here and try to find a home. It seems like she wants to relocate here and like she found her home with us. I've had conversations with my husband to get her to leave. He's asked and begged, but she still doesn't want to leave and he doesn't want to disrespect her. I've remained kind, but I can't take it anymore. I went into the guest room she's staying in and cleared it out. I took all the clothes out of the dresser and closet and put it into her suitcase. I also put all of her things on the floor. She came home and yelled at me, then got into a fight with my husband. She then apologized and said she couldn't afford the plane ticket back, and if my husband books it, she leaves. Well, he did for yesterday. She refused to go because it was the cheapest ticket on the cheapest airline and that she was worth more than that. We got her into another flight and she got a hotel for the night. Well, today she came home and opened the door. It wasn't locked. She then passed us and put all her things in the empty guest room. She went to the living room where we were and said, "Well, are you guys ready to apologize?" We were dumbfounded, of course. I stormed to my bedroom and locked myself in there. I took a nap and came out and they were both watching TV. It was around 6 at the time and I decided to start getting dinner ready. When I started, my mother-in-law went and started trying to talk to me, basically saying I should apologize. She noticed I was ignoring her and started yelling. I kept ignoring her until she went with my husband. I blocked out their conversation. I was quiet and set the plates. I only made enough servings for me and my husband. I sat and ate, and they came to do the same. She saw there were only 2 plates and went to look for more food. There wasn't any. I don't know how it happened, but we got into a huge fight, and I ended up throwing all our clothes outside and screaming at her for all my neighbors to see. She was crying, and my husband was begging for me to stop. I drove to my friends, shaking and mad. I passed out and woke up to paragraphs upon paragraphs of not just my husband and mother-in-law, but sister-in-law and brother-in-law, basically telling me I'm a jerk for disrespecting mother-in-law and embarrassing her. Well, I have no idea what to feel. So, am I the jerk for how I reacted? Not the jerk. Tell your husband you go or she goes, as this is a problem with him being a mama's boy. Tell your sister-in-law and brother-in-law they can take her in if they're so concerned. I'm wondering if she even still has a place to return to. I'm wondering if she even intended to find a place to move to. She can't afford an airline ticket, but she can supposedly afford to move? I suspect that she planned to just live with them all along. Not the jerk. Your husband chose his mother. Go to the bank and close all the joint accounts. Cancel all the credit cards. Hire a divorce attorney. It's over. Not the jerk. Mother-in-law sounds like a boundary stomper. You need to have a long conversation with husband about this and why it's unacceptable. You tried to be nice. You tried to be a little more direct, and clearly she wasn't taking the hint. To have the courage to come back after being essentially thrown out of your house and ask you to apologize? You need a divorce ASAP. I'll never understand why women stay with loser mama's boys. When a dude acts like his mom is some wonderful woman, it's a major red flag and I want nothing to do with him. The problem is, their delusional mothers come from a time where they were completely different than we are. Oh, your mom didn't mind doing dishes and laundry, cooking and raising the kids? So you think I should be okay doing that crap too? No thanks, mama's boy. If you want me, be a real man and do the cooking yourself. I'll order takeout like normal people do. And as for laundry, I'm not a maid. If you want your clothes clean, then wash them yourself. So sick of these entitled dudes thinking their moms are some sort of role model. It's not the 50s anymore, so get over it. My crippling depression and anxiety gets me over $1,200 a month, so I don't even need to work for myself. Why the heck should I work for you as a live-in maid? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her mother-in-law? Please let us know. Oh look, another mummy's boy. Do some soul searching? Okay. I started working for a company as an administrative assistant, purchasing office supplies, routing paperwork, coordinating meetings, etc. A person on my team left, so I picked up their duties while my boss looked for a replacement. The interview process for the replacement started in March of 2020, but it was not completed due to lockdown. I continued to cover both jobs easily since my original position did not have a lot of work to be completed while working from home. My boss compensated me for the extra work at a 10% salary increase, and all was going well. As we navigated the lockdown and realized how to work efficiently from home, my positions picked up more and more duties. I was designated as the executive assistant to my boss's boss's boss, which added on additional part-time position to my role. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I was not happy doing the work of 2.5 people and bringing in a measly 10% salary increase. I started discussing growth options with my boss last September. She asked me to put together a justification document as to why I deserved a growth path or promotion. I put something together within a few weeks. Doing 2.5 jobs kept me really busy, and sent it to her. We discussed it at our next get-together, and she said she'd have to discuss it with her boss. Next time we met, she asked me to put together another document on where I saw myself in 5 years. Okay, I put that together and sent it. Next time we met, she asks me to put together another document on the justification. I told her I was not going to keep pursuing these tasks if they aren't getting us anywhere. She said she'd discussed this with her boss. We're in February at this point, and I'm getting tired of being strung along when my boss finally sets up a meeting with her boss, and me. We met. I voiced my frustrations. They give me reasons as to why I am not entitled to a promotion. My boss said she already told me the reasons, but this was new information to me, and encouraged me to do some soul searching. I start soul searching. Am I really happy in this role? No. Do I feel supported by my boss or upper management? No. Why do I want to stay here if I know I'm not going anywhere career-wise? Beats me. I start applying to different jobs, within the company and externally as well. I'm still working towards a promotion with my current position, but I can't get my boss to give me any timelines or solid process to follow. We're now into April and have gotten nowhere. She's now asking me to look into different options other than a promotion, which do not follow the original path I wanted. The promotion would allow me career growth options in my current positions. Pursuing the other paths led nowhere. I interview for a position internally under a different supervisor. While I wait to hear back on that interview, I have concluded that I am no longer interested in the promotion. It was now May and we were still at square one. My boss sets up a meeting with HR to discuss what needs to be done for a promotion, which I feel like should have been done in September when we started this whole process. My boss made a comment that she never knew the process fully and wants to follow all the rules. Great. We've been wasting my time for the last 9 months. Fantastic. Finally, some good news for me. I got the job. As soon as I knew I had the job, I told my supervisor I was resigning. She was dumbfounded. She made comments about how we could have moved past the problems we faced. We were working towards a promotion, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Everybody who interacted with my supervisor during my 2 weeks' notice said she was grouchy and didn't want to talk about my departure. She now had to figure out how to complete my 2.5 duties while finding my replacement. I started my new job, and due to when I started work on the morning and my new supervisor started work on the morning, I had some extra time. I was going to finish up some things. My new boss was super accommodating with that plan, but my old boss took away the access I needed. I gave her a detailed list of what I was unable to complete, and she granted me the access I needed to complete those tasks. Too late. I was already knee-deep in introductory meetings and no longer had the time to assist. It's been 3 weeks now, and I couldn't be happier. My old boss and team are falling apart due to my boss being unable to lead a team. An awesome new hire, 2 to 3 months of work for my old boss, is already looking for a new job due to being bait and switched. I know of more people who are fed up with the leadership in my old team, beyond my boss, who are also looking for new jobs. Am I the jerk for yelling at my aunt in front of a restaurant full of people? When I, 30 male, was 5, my family took me to one of those Japanese steakhouses where they cook the food at your table. When the cook lit the grill and the huge flame shot up into the air, it scared me and I ran and hid in the corner and was too afraid to come back to the table. My aunt, 64 female, has teased me about that ever since. That was 25 years ago, and I swear she brings it up every single time I see her. I've told her repeatedly to stop talking about it. My parents have also asked her to stop bringing it up, to no avail. It's gotten so tiresome and embarrassing, and she teases me about it in front of the whole family, despite me repeatedly telling her to stop. I've never really gotten along well with my aunt, and lately I've made it a point to avoid her at family gatherings. We celebrated my birthday Friday, and I wanted to go to one of those Japanese steakhouses. I didn't invite my aunt, but my grandmother invited her behind my back. I didn't know she was coming until she showed up. I was already upset that my grandmother invited her. She told me that my aunt is family, and I can't just exclude her from everything. But as soon as we sat down, my aunt brought up the incident that happened when I was 5. I told her to stop bringing it up, and my mom told her to stop as well. But when the cook was fixing to light the hibachi, she asked me in this really condescending way, "You sure you don't want to go hide in the corner for old time's sake?" I finally just lost my temper and went off on her right then and there in front of the whole restaurant. I basically yelled at her, "Will you just shut up about that already? That was 25 years ago. Is that literally all you have to talk about? I'm sick of hearing about it. This is why I didn't invite you." I swear the entire restaurant must have been staring at me, and I felt like just walking out. The entire rest of the dinner was awkward, and I couldn't even enjoy my meal. After we left, my grandmother told me that I embarrassed her in front of everyone, and that my outburst was completely uncalled for, and that I owed my aunt an apology. My parents told me I didn't owe my aunt anything, and they were angry at my grandmother for inviting her. But I still feel like a jerk for losing my temper and yelling in front of the restaurant, and the whole thing was deeply embarrassing. My grandmother and my aunt are also both blasting me on Facebook for embarrassing them in public. So, am I the jerk? Not the jerk. She had been told and warned repeatedly to stop. For this to go on for 25 years is ridiculous. You had every right to do what you did because obviously it was going to take extreme measures for her to shut up. You embarrassed her? That is what she's been doing to you for 25 years. Your grandmother was out of line to invite someone to your birthday party that she knew you didn't want there. Blast them back. They are not owed an apology. Not the jerk. Sure, you could have handled it more cordially, but what your aunt is doing to you is so mean, and you have absolutely no obligation to put up with it. Your grandmother and your aunt are the jerks. Your parents are right, and I'm glad you have that support. Regardless of what your grandmother does, I suggest you continue to exclude your aunt. Your folks have your back. Not the jerk. I get you feel bad and embarrassed by your behavior, but try to be gentle to yourself and give yourself a pass on this. You've been tormented for 25 years for crying out loud. Ignore Facebook. Who cares what they think? It's very telling both your parents support you and don't think you should apologize. It shows you are absolutely right to react the way you did. If you have to see your aunt in the future, I would suggest the sentence, "Nothing more memorable has happened to you in 25 years? Boring," and simply walk away. To grandma, "Nope, still not apologizing. Anything else?" Then walk away. You don't owe either of them an apology, an explanation, or any more of your time and civility. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his aunt? Please let us know.
I'd tell my aunt it wasn't the fire that scared me when I was little, it was her dragon breath.
Would I be the jerk if I asked my sister to hide her engagement at my wedding and uninvite her fiancé? I posted a "Would I be the jerk?" asking if it would be mean to not allow my sister's boyfriend to propose at my wedding, and after the positive responses, decided to not let him propose. He was very understanding and polite and said it was totally fine, so we didn't think to inform the DJ or the security about his plans like some comments suggested. Big oopsie, he proposed anyway. After the ceremony of our wedding, we all went to sit down and eat some snacks, and we heard Mark take the mic. The entire evening, our friends and family had been giving short speeches and telling funny anecdotes, so we did not think much of it. However, Mark just said, "This is for your sister." What happened next sounds unreal even to me. My now husband and I have a couple song, which are our thing. Mark danced to 3 of them in his proposal. Furthermore, we had a simple rule for the wedding. No inappropriate songs. He played 2 of them, then proposed. She said yes. Both my husband and I were very hurt. So as to not make a scene, we slipped out into the garden. A while later, we heard our first dance song playing inside the venue. We walked back in, and it seemed like Mark and my sister were dancing to it. At this point, my husband was very saddened, and we decided to leave. We told all our guests that we were very tired and returned to the hotel. The next day, today, a friend told us that after the newly engaged couple finished dancing, Mark went up to the mic and said the song sucked and was a really bad idea for a first dance. I really don't know what to say or do. Neither of them said anything to us this morning, which I understand, post-engagement bliss and all, but it was still hurtful. Now, here comes the problem. Tomorrow is our reception, and I really don't want Mark to come. He's hurt me and my husband a lot already, and I don't want to give him another chance to do so, and I just don't want his presence there. Next, and I know this sounds horrible, but I want my sister to not tell everyone about her engagement and not wear her ring. This is because today, when our reception guests started coming in, an aunt asked to compare our rings and engagement stories. It was horrifying. I don't know how I will take it if this happens during the reception. Moreover, there will be more guests who have nothing to do with our families, like our colleagues. It will be a little awkward for them as well. I'm pretty sure that if I were to do this, my family would go nuts, and it will be embarrassing for them to announce my sister's engagement after my wedding. My husband says he will unconditionally support whatever decision I take. So, would it be a jerk move to ask Mark to not attend and ask my sister to hide her engagement? Karen bosses me around at work, so I made her cry. Okay, title sounds bad, but hear me out. So for context, I, 26 female, have been working at a corporate job for about a year. It's great, it pays really well, and I get along with pretty much everyone there. However, there's this one manager at work. Let's call her Leanne. She's around 40 and female. And most of us don't get on with her at all, as she's always humiliating people by talking down to us. For example, my coworker has a lisp, and last week when she asked him how far along he was with a project, he said it would still take a little while. She basically blew up at him, but half of the time when she was screaming at him, she was putting on a fake lisp to mock him. She'll always have a pile of work on her desk for other people to do, because she needs to leave work to collect her kids from school when the father doesn't show up to collect them when it's his turn. Another thing is, she always expects us to stay on later than expected and coming in earlier, but we don't get paid for this time. That's just a few examples, because if I listed all of the things she does, it would be over the word limit. So today, I get told that I'm being promoted to a much higher position within the company. I'm excited about it as it pays better and will give me a lot more responsibility. The thing is, this position basically will make Leanne my subordinate. So I was telling a few coworkers about the promotion. We were just standing in the break room laughing and chatting when she came in. She started going off on us about not working, saying things like,
"Oh, I get it. You guys must think you're on vacation just because it's a nice day out, do you?"
At one point she said,
"If you people don't get your butts back to the office right now, I'm going to report it to higher management."
The more she talked, the angrier I got. And when she finally finished berating us, I stood silently for a second and then just said something like, "I'll consider this being you reporting it to your higher management, as that's currently my position in the company." One of my coworkers snorted, and Leanne looked furious. Then I just told her that me and my coworkers were okay to be in the break room, as it was literally our break time, that it was pretty rich to tell us we couldn't take a coffee break when she herself would leave work regularly to pick up her kids because her ex-husband couldn't be bothered. I said that she wasn't to speak to any of us like that anymore, or I'd have her written up within the minute. She stood there for a whole minute, it felt like, and then she started tearing up. Then she left without a word. I felt horrible because I humiliated her in front of people she's managing and I made her cry. My coworkers are saying that she had it coming, but one of them thinks I went too far, bringing her kids into it. So, am I the jerk? If you don't want to spend time having to defend your behavior to HR, you need to learn quickly that you can't dress a subordinate down in public. Just because she used to do it doesn't make it right. Where I am, people can claim workers' compensation because managers humiliate them by giving them negative feedback in front of a crowd instead of in private. If she went on stress leave where I am, a claim could get up because of your behavior. Everyone sucks here. Everyone sucks here. Praise in public, criticize in private is a lesson that good managers follow. Her behavior was out of line, but so was your public criticism. What you said to her was appropriate in my opinion, but should have been said just between the two of you in private. Everyone sucks here. Where is your boss anyhow? Is anyone managing this behavior? What company allows her to speak like that anyhow? Further, you're not her boss yet, and you can't, or shouldn't, speak to her like that when you are her boss. This company is crazy. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Leanne? Please let us know.
OP's sticking up for herself. I think you commenters need some milk.
Entitled dog mom screams at my daughter for petting her dog. So I work as a secretary/receptionist at a small veterinary practice. By small, I mean that there are 2 vets, 3 nurses, and me. 6 employees total. One of the vets founded the practice 30 years ago, and her son is one of the nurses. Because it's so small, we really are like a family, and often get together at each other's houses for drinks and stuff. Because of this, we're also all pretty well acquainted with each other's families. The 2 youngest of the group are my daughter, Elori, who's 7, and one of the nurses, who's 35, male, his son, who's 8. They go to the same school and often carpool if needed. This summer, my daughter had summer camp in the morning, but nothing in the afternoon. Since my boyfriend and I both work until 5, me and 4, him, my boss said it was absolutely fine for Elori to hang out around the office until my boyfriend could come get her after he got off work. Most of the time, Elori either plays games on her phone, watches YouTube, or does some arts and crafts in the back office. From where I sit at the front desk, I can see her and her me, but clients cannot see her. Occasionally, my boss will offer for Elori to come help her with a very sweet and gentle pet. She will usually hold the pet and grab tools that the vet leaves on the counter for her. Always just normal checkups. Elori was just exiting the exam room to give one cat back to her owner when this entitled mom walked in with her yapping dog pulling at a leash. She takes one look at Elori handing someone a pet and immediately gets angry.
"Where's the vet?"
I tell her that my boss is prepping for her next appointment and that she can sit down and wait.
"Where are your parents? You should not be in a medical area."
She directs this question at Elori. Elori points to me, which directs her back in my direction.
Where are her parents?
She asks me. I'm her mom.
You're a teenager.
Actually, I'm 21. Not that it's any of your business. At this point, her dog is absolutely losing it. He's barking, pulling at his leash, lunging towards Elori. She immediately becomes scared, even though this dog is like a beagle. She loves dogs, but also knows exactly when to stay out of a dog's radius of reach. However, like I said, the office is small. This dog is between me and the desk and Elori. She can either try to go around the dog to get to me, which clearly the dog will be able to get to her, or head back into the exam room, a route which also put her in the dog's path. As I realize this, I stand up to go get her, and she chooses to attempt to come to me at the desk, putting her in the dog's path. Predictably, the dog comes at her and gets one nip before I can throw myself between them. Elori's sobbing. The owner is screaming that Elori had touched her dog, and one of the nurses, the one who's a dad, comes out to figure out what the heck is going on. Without even asking, he immediately and firmly escorts entitled mom outside to defuse the situation. I take Elori to the back office. Thankfully, she was fine. 10 or so minutes later, he comes back in without entitled mom. I ask him what happened, and he told me that entitled mom threatened to sue me for letting Elori touch her dog. He reminded her that any dog unable to sit quietly was required to be in a crate, and after some choice words, she left. He also tells me that he will be covering the end of my shift and that I should get Elori out of there and do what's best to calm her down. We got ice cream and watched Encanto. You can't perform Creep by Radiohead due to spirit of the song. Our institution of about 2,000 staff had yearly dinner and dance events. This was before lockdown, of course. This is an educational institution where most of us are either teachers or administrators. I am part of a small group of teachers and staff at this institution that formed our own staff rock band. We're usually given a 30-minute performance slot at previous dinner and dances, thus we were invited to perform again for the upcoming one. The theme for that year was superheroes. Our merry little band set out a full set list of songs, which included songs like Holding Out for a Hero by Bonnie Tyler, the Shrek soundtrack version. We threw in Creep by Radiohead because we wanted a song to slow the pace down midway through our set. All of us in the band are music lovers covering multiple genres and also coming from many different faiths and religions. None of us even considered that Creep would be an inappropriate song on stage. So now let me introduce the antagonist of this story. I'll call him Ash. He was the main staff coordinator for the entire dinner and dance event, a role that was bestowed on up-and-coming staff who show potential for leadership positions. Ash and his committee were the ones who came up with the superhero theme and would oversee everything for the event, including our little 30-minute performance. Before this event, none of us in the staff band knew Ash well. He was a bit of a loner, and as we would soon discover, he also takes his religion and values very seriously. So seriously that he had no qualms claiming jurisdiction over the whole event with his values as constitution. We had given the event committee our song set list 2 months before the event, after which we began rehearsing in earnest. No committee member said anything in those 2 months about our songs they wanted removed. At our last rehearsal before the event, Ash decided to drop into our rehearsal. Midway through our set, as we began to play Creep, he suddenly raised his hand to object and said, "Stop, stop, stop. I'm removing this song from your set list. You can't play this song." We were stunned. This was 2 days before the show, and we had sunk in tens of hours of rehearsal by this point. "Why?" we asked. "I read the lyrics of this song. The spirit of this song is offensive. It has the wrong values for an educational institution such as ours." We protested. Some of our band members were very religious themselves, and they saw no problem with the song, but he would not budge an inch. "You are not playing Creep on stage. I'm going to escalate this to the deputy principal." The band members were fuming at this point, regardless of religion, but the band leader made the call. Okay, we can't play this song on stage, right? Then we won't. And just to be sure, this is a superhero-themed event, right? And your committee is encouraging all attendees to come dressed as superheroes? Am I correct? "Yes," Ash replied, "and especially so for the performers. So we are expecting your band to come dressed up as superheroes to fit our theme." Cue malicious compliance.
The day of the dinner and dance comes around, and over 1,000 colleagues showed up. Some dressed in Superman t-shirts, some as Wonder Women, and even one in full Deadpool costumes. But none of them grabbed as much attention as one very tall, very leggy, very conspicuous Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon had on the tight-fit sailor uniform, slim waist, skirt, and the wig. It was none other than the band leader, who, by the way, is a 40-year-old male. Ash was livid, but as Sailor Moon was grabbing so much attention with so many folks clamoring to have photos taken with her, Ash did not want to spoil his own party by telling her to change. At one point, even the deputy principal grabbed a photo with Sailor Moon. The 30-minute performance was decent. Mistakes here and there, but none of us were professional, and the crowd enjoyed it anyway. Sailor Moon, who was the bassist, was headbanging and swinging her wig wildly to the finale, holding out for a hero, ensuring that everyone had their eyes on her. Naturally, there would be a Best Dressed segment, and it was clear from the start that Sailor Moon was going to be nominated and then destroy the competition. But Sailor Moon did something none of us expected. As the MC for the event asked her why she chose to come as Sailor Moon, and the entire event hall was riveted on her, curious to hear her answer, she did not answer, but instead started to sing. "But I'm a creep, I'm a weirdo. What the heck am I doing here? I don't belong here." The crowd cheered and applauded, but no other table at the event was as overjoyed as the staff band table, who understood the deeper meaning behind what the band leader just did. It's been a few years since the event, and we aren't sure if Ash got that promotion he was seeking. He was such a loner that nobody really saw him much, thus nobody talked about him either. The band leader, on the other hand, became a legend. He was once at a meeting where the folks across from him said that he looked very familiar, like they had seen him somewhere before. Then somebody suddenly burst out, "You're Sailor Moon! You're that Sailor Moon!" They didn't even know his name. Would I be the jerk if I give a family heirloom belonging to my late wife to my adopted daughter? My late wife, Kate, passed about 12 years ago. They have a family heirloom that has passed down several generations, starting from her great-grandmother, from mothers to their first daughters on their 18th or thereabouts birthdays. The heirloom itself is not highly valuable in a financial sense, but the history makes it very valuable to the family. I currently possess it after Kate passed, and I always intended to give it to my daughter, Claire, on her 18th birthday. She's currently 16. I married my current wife about 8 years ago. My stepdaughter, Sarah, whom I have adopted and consider my own daughter, is 17 years and 11 months old. Her 18th birthday is in a month. My wife has also adopted Claire, and we all consider each other as just one family. My wife asked me to give the heirloom to Sarah on her birthday to continue the tradition. I was hesitant because I always intended to give it to Claire, who is Kate's only daughter, as this is what she would have wanted, and it's the continuation of the tradition. My wife counters that this belongs to our family now, and we should give it to our eldest daughter on her 18th birthday, and therefore this should belong to Sarah. I told her that while I consider Sarah to be my daughter, but she's not Kate's daughter, this belongs to Kate and should go to Kate's daughter. My wife said Claire is her daughter, not anyone else's, and wife accused me of playing favorites and told me that if I truly consider Sarah to be my daughter, then I'll do the right thing for her, or that I haven't really accepted Sarah as a real daughter yet. I consulted my son, from Kate, who's 25 years old, and he told me that if I do this, he's going to walk from the birthday party, and that he bets he won't be the only one. He said if I do this, I should be ready for severe consequences. He left in a very frustrated way. His argument in the end was that this isn't yours to give away. It was Mom's, and now belongs to Claire. My wife thinks my son is overreacting, and it's only due to his age and moving out that he's never bonded with Sarah like Claire and I have, so he doesn't consider Sarah to be his real sister. Otherwise, he'd be happy for her. My wife thinks Claire will be happy about this since she considers Sarah to be her big sister, and it will bring the girls even closer together because Sarah will happily share it with Claire and they'll both have it. So, would I be the jerk if I did what my wife wants me to do and give the heirloom to Sarah? You're the jerk for even considering it. Your wife is also an even bigger jerk for pressuring you to do it. It belonged to Kate. It's you who adopted Sarah. Kate didn't. It should stay with Kate's kids. Give it to Claire on her 18th birthday. I don't trust your wife around it. You should seriously consider giving it to your son or ideally Kate's mother if she's still alive, for safekeeping. You're the jerk. If you and Kate adopted Sarah together, it would make sense for her to get the necklace. But Kate never knew Sarah, so the necklace should 100% go to Claire. If Claire didn't exist, I would say it should go to one of Kate's nieces. Sarah would not make the list because she did not know Kate. I'm so shocked your wife even suggested it. It was way out of line. The necklace belongs to Kate's family. Well, what do you think? Should OP give the necklace to his stepdaughter or not? Please let us know. Bruh. Am I the jerk for calling my best friend dumb for marrying for love? I, 27 female, am in a very stable relationship with my fiance, 29 female, for around 4 years, and we're planning to get engaged eventually and then marry. My best friend Chrissy, fake name and also 27 female, has been with her own fiance since they were 20. They only got engaged this year, and it was kinda weird how it took him so long to propose since he seemed to be financially stable and all. Throughout the years, I asked Chrissy why her fiancé hadn't proposed yet, and she kept insisting it was not the right time, but she'd never say the reason why, just that it wasn't the right time. Eventually, he proposed in the beginning of 2022, and they're planning their wedding for next year. They decided to plan their engagement party during summertime because, due to busy schedules, they couldn't do it earlier. So the engagement party was this past Saturday, and her fiancé made a speech dedicated to her and mentioned pretty much the reasons they didn't get engaged sooner, and I couldn't help but pity my friend. So the reasons were that he didn't have a stable job for their first few years of their relationship and only jumped from position to position, from Walmart to Target, etc. He hadn't finished his degree yet, so he had no higher education. Then he got his degree in 2019, and only then was he able to get a proper job. He bragged and also thanked Chrissy for never giving up on him and growing with him, and how they helped each other form their amazing personalities and achievements, and how no matter what the future holds, he'll never forget, etc. My fiance and I felt some type of way about it. Some friends of mine and Chrissy agreed how Chrissy basically stayed with a broke man and waited for 7 years, and we don't think that's something praiseworthy, but pity-worthy. As friends, we decided to explain to her our perspective of how we think it was ridiculous that she had to almost reach 30 to move on with her life with that man, when someone else could have provided what she needed much sooner. Chrissy always said how she wanted marriage and kids, and it's sad she had to wait this long for this man to get his act together, and she didn't know her worth. She said she loves him, and he's an amazing partner, and wouldn't break up with him over his misfortunes, and what matters is that they love each other. I told her it's dumb how she's marrying for love and not for stability, and how she's basically wasted herself for love, and how the first issue should have been raised when he was working at Walmart and Target back to back. She called us all materialistic, and she said she doesn't care if she struggles financially, as long as she struggles with the right person who will value her emotions and listen to her. She said we are miserable jerks who will find no happiness in life and are very shallow. Could we be the jerks for criticizing her this way? Reread your last paragraph. Chrissy nailed it. You're the jerk. Apparently, it never occurred to her that maybe Chrissy didn't want to be married at 23. Chrissy may have had every intention to wait till she was 30 to get married either way. She just found her person pretty young, so she was happy to hang with them until the time when they would have been ready for marriage. But I think OP is probably just jealous. She says she's been with her partner for 4 years and they're going to get engaged eventually, but clearly it's not in her immediate future. So OP may very well be looking at 7 years of dating before an engagement herself. Except where Chrissy was younger and fine with that, I think OP realizes she's older and so feels the need to criticize long periods of dating because she's afraid she'll end up like Chrissy, but older. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Chrissy? Please let us know. Before insulting someone's life or their choices they've made, always ask yourself if it's actually going to help anyone in any way, shape, or form. If the answer's no, just keep your mouth shut. Am I the jerk for telling my mom to leave my house after she kept moving the furniture? My wife is OCD. She's on medication, but there are still things that she's extremely particular about. One part of this is where she puts things. She has certain things in specific places. She has the silverware in a certain drawer, the coffee table pressed to the side of the wall, the coffee maker below the coffee cups. She also works from home and is often in meetings. This is how she operates and generally gets through the day. There's a specific place for everything and for a reason, and it's convenient. Frankly, I think these spots are where most people keep their things. When she's in a meeting or talking to people, she'll keep her earpiece in, go make coffee as they're talking, and so forth. So she's usually rushing. Honestly, I don't even know if this is even a part of OCD or just a matter of her everyday routine that throws her off when it's not there. Mom was coming down to New Jersey where I live, visiting me and other siblings. She was staying with us, and usually this isn't an issue, but Mom continues to move things around the house. Like the things I've mentioned. She moved the coffee maker and the cups apart so they're hanging where there are hooks on the wall, the opposite way of the coffee maker. She moved the coffee table to the center of the room. She rearranged all of the plates and cups. She's putting my wife's pens, paper, notebooks, laptop, all in her office in different places, so my wife has to rummage around to find them. Mom keeps closing the blinds, making it dark and gloomy in the house. This gets my wife overwhelmed and has a bigger impact than how simple it seems, and her sidetracked from work because now she has to find everything and put it back. This has been happening for the past 3 days. Each time Mom does it, I tell her to put it back, then she gets mad at me, saying this is where everything should be, and she's just helping us. I stayed firm and told her to put it back, which she does, but once I leave, it's back to where I told her not to put it. It's starting to irritate me, and my wife is getting really frustrated with this. I don't think she or I can handle this for 2 weeks. Today, Mom moved my wife's office desk from the other side of the room, away from all the cabinets she has stored for her work things. This was it. I profusely told her to move it back and why. I told her that she's going to have to stay with my sister or find a hotel. She got really mad at me and my wife and told me she can't believe we're so selfish to not appreciate her help, then said if she's not appreciated, she'll leave. She left, but now I'm getting blasted from my sister and my brother saying I was a jerk for kicking her out, and this is just how she shows affection. I don't think I'm a jerk. We opened our home to her, which is already kind of a lot. It's our home. We should feel comfortable in our home, and our setup was comfortable for both of us. Not the jerk. Even if your wife didn't have OCD, it would be a darn move to do any of that. Like, if it were just that she did the washing up and didn't know where something goes and put it in the wrong spot, that would be fine. But she's deliberately rearranging things, and that's not okay. The fact that she's deliberately rearranging things, even after being explicitly told not to, is a huge sign of disrespect, whether OP's wife has OCD or not. Who goes into someone else's house and moves their home office around? OP's mom had no reason whatsoever to be in wife's office at all, let alone moving wife's office around, except to either exert control over space that isn't hers to control or cause trouble. Not the jerk, but OP's mom sounds like a massively controlling jerk. Well, what do you think? Is mother-in-law a jerk or not? Please let us know. People who touch your things after you tell them not to are the worst. I bet you OP siblings are mad now because mom's over there messing with their stuff. Am I the jerk for leaving my sister and her husband in the rain? My girlfriend, Emily, is a food content creator. She loves what she does, and her food is always tasty. If she decided to open a restaurant, she would always be fully booked. She does not do professional catering, but she likes to prepare food for friends and family. A little context. A few weeks ago, my sister, Paige, wanted to host a dinner party for her friends and family. 8 guests. She asked Emily to help her design an elaborate course menu. Eventually, this turned into Paige hiring Emily for a night to prepare and cook all the meals. Paige paid half of the agreed amount and promised to pay the remaining balance by a certain date. Emily spent days prepping, cooking, cleaning, etc. to make sure the dinner was perfect. She spent the entire day at their house prepping, and she also helped Paige clean the house in preparation for the guests. At first, she says that she was overwhelmed, but nothing she couldn't handle. She was alone working in the kitchen. The guests arrived almost 2 hours earlier than Emily was expecting. According to Emily, my brother-in-law, sister's husband, started to brag about their new exotic maid that they had hired because of this event. He went on, mentioning how hard it was to understand their maid because of her accent. My sister lives in an open-plan style house, so Emily could hear all of these things in the kitchen. Emily was incredibly uncomfortable the entire time. As soon as she finished, she left. I asked Paige and my brother-in-law to apologize, but they refused. To make it worse, Paige has not paid Emily the rest of the promised money. Every time we call, text, or email, etc., she straight up ignores us. I assumed that they had blocked us on all social media, messages, etc. It's gross and I'm so upset with them. A couple of days ago, Emily posted a new food-related video. It was very good and looked tasty. About 2 hours later, my sister and her husband are outside my door in the pouring rain asking to come in. I was confused, but I assumed that maybe this was their way of apologizing. I did not let them in. I just opened the door a little bit. I was wrong. Paige mentioned how she saw Emily's post and wanted to come try it for herself. I was stunned. Not only was I disappointed in them for not apologizing or paying Emily, I was shocked by the ridiculousness of their thought process, that they would show up for free food like nothing had happened, ignoring the fact that Emily doesn't upload her content on the same day she makes it. I asked Paige or my brother-in-law to apologize, and when it was clear that they were making excuses, I said goodbye and shut the door in their face. They sat outside with no umbrella or a rain jacket for almost an hour, calling our names and spamming our doorbell. I got a call from my brother-in-law demanding me to apologize because I got Paige sick. Emily thinks I may have been a bit too petty. Not the jerk. This is what I like to call mess around and find out. They were rude the whole way through. You should also take them to small claims court where they will be forced to pay up the remainder of what's owed. Though you may want to go a legal subreddit or lawyer to see what you can do. Not the jerk. You didn't leave them in the rain. They chose to stay in the rain to yell at you. They were perfectly able to leave and get out of the rain. They cannot blame you for their choices. As for Emily's payment, it might be necessary to take them to small claims court. That is, if she thinks it's worth it. The big guy and the bigger bouncer. Back about 13 to 14 years ago, I was working as a bouncer at a club in a rough area of Toronto. Now, the job was a well-paying gig, especially for a university student my size. Gave me an advantage, and it was better than having to work at McDonald's. Now, as I said, I'm a big guy, but the other bouncer, Dale, he was a huge guy. I'm 6'3" with a bug build. That man was at least 6'10". His arms were the size of my legs, the epitome of a huge guy. It was a Saturday night, and a group of 5 or 6 people started making trouble. Dale and I were on floor duty, and in the club we always work in pairs. I went over to the table to give them a warning that it's time to settle down or get out from there. It just escalated to them saying, ain't no way they're doing crap. Mixed with booze and an attitude and the high testosterone environment, one of the guys had to be a big man and cause some crap. Now at this point, I was not conscious for what exactly went down, but one of the bigger guys around my size cracked me in the head with a beer bottle and I went down. Now, Dale, being the rough guy that he was, he saw this happen and rushed over. I don't know what exactly took place in the time I was on the floor till I came back, but when I did, I stood up to the troublemakers screaming, "Let him go! You're hurting him!" So Dale had the guy who cracked me in the head in the judo hold. Now at this point, they're screaming, "Please, please just let him go!" The bar staff hand already called the cops, but Dale thought it was enough that it was time to give them what they wanted. Again, Dale was a big guy. Dale did exactly what they wanted to the letter. The man let him out of the hold, but grabbed him by the shirt, lifted the guy up, and threw the man at his buddies. Dale pointed at them and said, "You guys aren't going to move. Do you understand me?" Looked over at me and said, "Hey, little Mikey, you good?" The cops came and got that one jerk booked. But yeah, Dale was and still is a huge guy. Am I the jerk for refusing to go on a family vacation unless my mom lets my boyfriend come? I, 22 female, am one of 7 kids. I'm the youngest, and all of my siblings are over 10 years older than me. They are all married, but only one of them has kids. My dad left when I was 7, and none of us have heard from him since. We didn't go on any family vacations after he left because my mom was too anxious. And then by the time she wasn't, my siblings all had their own lives. My mom decided last year that she wanted to go on a huge family vacation. It's out of the country and for 15 days. All of my siblings are going to be there along with their partners. The vacation is next week. I've been with my boyfriend now for about 6 months, and I thought it was a given that my mom would pay for my boyfriend to come too. When I mentioned it to her, she laughed, thinking I was joking. She said it's a family vacation where all of us are going to be spending actual time together for the first time in a long time, and she doesn't want to pay for someone she barely knows to be there. I said this was unfair, and I told her I refused to go unless she would let him come. She's upset, and my siblings are all saying that I'm a jerk, but I just don't think it's fair when all of my siblings' partners are going. Am I the jerk? You're the jerk. Let's break this down. 1. This is a big deal 2-week vacation for the entire family, which has not gone on a vacation like this in at least 15 years. 2. Your mom is paying for everyone. 3. Your mother really wants to do this. She wants to gather her 7 kids together and have a fun experience as a family. 4. It's a week away, and you're only now discussing the boyfriend coming? How long ago was all this planned? Did you think the boyfriend of less than 6 months was invited on the all expenses paid by mom family vacation? 5. Your mom has been the only parent that was there for you from the time you were 7. She had to weather all the issues of her husband abandoning all of you, including those who are now adults. Is there no part of you that's okay with just letting her have this because of everything that she's done for you? Just not throw a fit about something and be the person who upsets everyone at the family vacation? 6. There are times in life where you gotta balance what you want against what it is going to cost. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her mom? Please let us know. No tip on a $300 bill. Reason? Because they're a non-profit. I'm sitting here on my break and I just want to know if this is actually a thing because I'm kind of salty. I work at a small poke bowl/sushi place that's similar to Chipotle in that it's a prep and go. Dine in is optional. The bowls do take quite a bit of time though, since customers build their own. Same thing if they want sushi rolls. Anyway, it's 12:30ish and this group of around 20 comes in. I'm thinking, wow, since it's our usual lunch rush, plus this massive group, and it was a little overwhelming to say the least. This lady says she's going to pay me for her whole group, and it takes maybe 30 minutes to get through everyone. While ringing her up, I ask what the group is about, and she says it's some sort of summer camp. The total came out to just over $300, and when I flip to the tip screen, she just looks at me and goes, "Sorry, I'm not allowed to tip since we're a non-profit organization. You guys did a great job though." It was a little disappointing to run around taking and making orders for everyone just to be told they couldn't tip because they were a non-profit. They even said they'd probably be coming back for the duration of their camp, which I'm not looking forward to if it's going to be all this stress and no reward. So tell me, is this some kind of rule for company budgeting? Am I the jerk or are they? Edit. To clarify, this is not a typical dine-in restaurant, and I included this earlier because I know there's a difference when it comes to expecting tips. I don't have an issue with regular customers not tipping, although it is appreciated and I try to make conversation and make sure that they're taken care of to earn it. I'm annoyed that a company-funded party of 20 came in, assuming this is a larger nonprofit with money, and left nothing. I was also wondering if my annoyance was justified or if she was telling the truth about not being allowed to. To be honest though, I would have been happy with $10. Also, I'm a girl, since some of the people in the comments think I'm a guy. I work for a nonprofit. We are allowed to tip. I've done a fair share of delivery work. It's pretty normal for people in some kind of secretarial position to claim that they don't have authority to provide a tip. I tend to view this as a BS excuse, of course. They're clearly allowed to pay for the incurred expense, and the tip should be viewed as part of the expense. I'm sure there are genuinely some bosses and higher-ups that will notice and kick up a fuss that a signer included a basic tip, but it happens far too commonly for that to be the majority case in my opinion. I do notice that a lot of people who are in positions that are generally viewed as socially good or altruistic, whether that's charity work, nurses, teachers, etc., are very bad tippers or they don't tip at all. And there's a lot of entitlement and a sense that they don't have to because everyone knows they're good people already. I haven't done much serving work, but I'm reminded of how many server friends I've known that don't like serving church groups for that same reason. And my main job now is teaching, and I definitely notice a big self-righteous and smug note in a sizable number of coworkers. Of course, usually whenever I bring this up on Reddit, I get downvoted because, how dare you badmouth these people, they're our heroes, etc. I used to work with city government. We couldn't get reimbursed for more than 10% tip. That was 15 years ago. It probably hasn't changed. I work for a nonprofit now. We can tip, just within reason, but I suppose her specific organization could set up rules for that sort of purchase. When I was a server many moons ago, I had the exact same situation. I saw the absence of gratuity when cleaning the table and found the host on our way out. She stated the exact same thing as did your guests. My reply in front of the group was, "You may be nonprofit, but I'm certainly not. Do you not pay your employees who provide a service to you?" She turned as red as the lobster her friend ate, and I managed $20 out of the cheap jerk. Not nearly an appropriate gratuity, but the satisfaction was priceless. Do you leave tips? And if so, how much do you usually leave? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for telling my boyfriend's friends that I make twice what he does? I'm in a relationship with a guy who also works in tech. He makes $68,000 a year and I make $130,000. I'm a mechanical engineer at a robotics startup. He works at a more stable job doing programming at a large company. He brought me to meet his friends at a party and they asked me about myself. His friends mostly work in tech too, and they talked about themselves in terms of their jobs. I told them I'm a hiker, I do archery, I love road trips and camping and riding dirt bikes, etc. Basically talking about my hobbies because work is just a way to get paid to do the crap I love. It's not how I define myself, and it doesn't come to mind when someone wants me to tell them about myself. One of his friends asked me about work, and I said, "Oh gosh, I don't want to talk about work at a party. Spent my whole day sweating in 95-degree heat trying to replace this busted motor just to find the replacement part was also broken." I wasn't lying or trying to downplay that I have a good job. That really is how I spent my day, and I wasn't in the mood to talk shop at a party. Some other conversations came up casually that probably also made me seem poorer. Like me saying that car dealership repairs were a ripoff, and telling my boyfriend that my childhood neighbor's trailer caught on fire and I was gonna go visit and help her out. I wasn't doing it on purpose, I was literally just talking about my life, but I guess I gave the impression that I was poorer. It got later into the night and everyone was drinking, and some of his friends, not close ones though, were making jokes about me being a gold digger and being ready to jump to a rich guy. Honestly, they don't even know me, and they seemed to just assume that I was a gold digger. He didn't say anything. I felt hurt that he didn't say anything. I got irritated with his friends and I asked, "Now, why the heck would you say that when I make twice what he does?" His friends went quiet for a second and I continued saying, "There ain't no gold to dig here. Not with him or anyone at this party. So do y'all think I'm cheap or do y'all think I'm stupid?" My boyfriend wanted to leave the party shortly after, and he was pretty upset with me for telling everyone I make twice what he does. I said I would have held my tongue if he had checked his friends himself, but he didn't say anything, so I wasn't about to let them talk to me like that. He said it was humiliating, and now everyone thinks I'm a jerk. And I said, "At least they know I'm a rich jerk." He was angry I embarrassed him when I spoke up. I was angry I had to say anything at all, because his friends were talking crap, so it should be on him to check them. Stuff is still tense. Am I the jerk for explaining why I'm not a gold digger? Not the jerk. His friends sound like those dudes that whine that they can't get girlfriends, think that they deserve supermodels, but then are complete jerks. Boyfriend got his ego bruised that you let it be known you out-earn him. Am I the jerk for telling my retired military father what I said? I'm 32, male, and my family is what I would consider generational military. We have ancestors that fought in World War I and beyond. I grew up being moved from place to place, going long stretches without seeing my father, and I hated it. Anytime I'd say I missed my dad or I wished I could see him more, I was quickly told to be quiet and be proud of my dad for being a hero. I once was upset we had to move because I was finally making friends and was told to not be selfish. I'm one of 4 kids. My brother and sisters all enlisted at 18. I chose not to, and while I'm not the only person in my extended family to do so, I knew it was disappointing. Originally, I chose not to enlist just because I didn't want to be in the military. However, over time, after learning more about it, I find the concept just wrong. I've never told my family this. I went to college, got my dream job, and eventually married my wife. We have 2 beautiful daughters. Because of our own upbringing, I do my best to be at every recital, school concert, soccer game, etc. I help my eldest with her homework, have special days with each of them separately, and then as family. Recently, I had the opportunity for a promotion that would require traveling 2 weeks out of the month. My wife and I briefly considered it before deciding that it just wasn't worth it in the long run. We do good financially, and the extra money wouldn't be worth her raising our kids alone half the month and me missing out on so much. The promotion came up during a family party. My father is now retired and he was there. When he heard me mention it, he asked why I would want to pass it up. I said I don't want to miss out on my girls' childhoods and have them feel like I abandoned them. My dad's chest puffed out, and he said I was attacking him. I was confused, and he said I had never been quiet about being unhappy as a military kid. He went on a rant about him not being an absent dad. I was an ungrateful brat, not patriotic, telling me to move to Canada if I didn't like it here. I said I don't want to do that. I just hated growing up without a physically present father. He said he was fighting for our country. I said that was a choice, and I'm allowed to not agree with it. My wife, kids, and I left shortly after. My wife agrees with my point, but said I was a jerk for wording my reasons for not taking the promotion like I did. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Your dad's insecure, childish response says it all. Not the jerk. Any decent dad would have said, I know me being gone so much caused you a lot of pain and it makes me sad. I made the best decision I could about my career and my responsibility, but I am aware that it had some major drawbacks. I'm glad you get to be a father who gets to be around for your kids since it's important to you. Not the jerk. I'm sorry your childhood was sacrificed for his false beliefs. I can see why your dad believes what he does if he's generational military. He was spoon-fed the patriotism stuff from birth. But don't make that your problem. You do you and raise your family the way you like. Good for you. Not the jerk. You are being a great father by putting your kids' lives first. Being present in their upbringing will forever be better than any job promotion. Your father got defensive because he knew you were right. Don't listen to him. You're doing the right thing. There's nothing wrong with wanting to put your kids first, and you are not an ungrateful brat. It's not your fault he chose war over his son. Not the jerk. Gosh, I can't stand military guys. They never make good fathers or husbands, and they wonder why their wives don't stick around. These guys expect to be treated like royalty when the truth is we don't need them at all. This is why I never thank anyone for their service. It's like, oh, you decided to play soldier so you can live off my tax dollars? And you expect me to worship the ground you walk on? No thanks, Sarge. I learned the hard way to never date military guys. It's a huge red flag that he has zero intelligence and isn't going anywhere in life. If you really want to fight for us, stand up for those of us who are legit ostracized like myself. Go to rally marches and demonstrations. Donate money to get the right people elected who will make a difference in this broken system we live in. Playing soldier and being a bad person like most of them do won't solve a thing.
Hey Reddit boy, weren't you in the army? What do you think of that last commenter?
No comment, Karen. No comment. Am I the jerk for expecting my girlfriend to share her food before it gets cold? I know this may seem like a dumb argument to ask about, but I am genuinely curious if I am actually the jerk about this. My girlfriend, May, who's 22, and I, 22, have been dating for 2 years now. I just want to start off by saying my girlfriend is very small and tends to not eat very big portions. I have rarely ever seen her complete a meal by herself, maybe on 1 or 2 occasions out of the 2 years and thousands of meals we've had together. She isn't per se selfish with her food, but she doesn't like to share with me all the time, which I just kind of find rather annoying considering she does not finish all of her food. For example, if we're out to eat, usually I will reach my hand over and try to sample a bite while her food is hot and fresh because I want to taste. She will sometimes smack my hand away and tell me to wait. Then an argument always ensues because she thinks I should give her the courtesy of at least trying to finish her meal before I touch it, which is annoying to me because I know she won't finish it and she knows I like my food scalding hot. I usually won't even eat if it's room temperature. The reason I'm asking if I'm the jerk here is that this weekend we went to a fair in our town and she got a basket of 3 fried Oreos. And when she brought it over, I took one and she got really upset saying, "You know I wait for these all year around and I wanted to eat all of them," which was probably a lie, but she seemed kind of upset for the rest of the night about it. I'm pretty sure I'm not the jerk, but I wanted to ask for strangers' opinions so I can settle this debate with her once and for all. Am I the jerk? Edit. Okay, reading all of these comments has made me realize that I'm not only the jerk, but I am the biggest jerk in the world. Growing up, I was very poor and was always taught to scarf my food down while it was good, aka while it was hot. I guess that translated into me being an adult, and I'm now wreaking havoc on the person I love the most. I thought by eating her food and showing her it was enjoyable would help her recovery, and through comments from all of you, I realized that I was severely wrong. I don't even know how I'm going to apologize to her, but I'm going to start by not taking her food and working on my issues. I'm going to take her to the fair and buy her all the fried Oreos she wants. Thank you all for making me realize just how stupid I was being. It's scary to even think that had I not made what I thought was a silly post over a small debate, I would have kept up my behavior without even knowing until it was too late. Update. We talked. I don't want to go in depth because I don't want to expose a private conversation, but I apologized and we had a long conversation. She said she was only willing to continue if I go to therapy, which I am. She appreciated the apology, and now I'm going to take her out for dinner tonight. You're the jerk, because you didn't even ask. What on earth? I also never finish my meals, but my husband waits for me to offer, or he asks. Common courtesy. You also already know this bothers her, so why do you keep doing it? You're the jerk. All I could hear when I read this was, Joey doesn't share food. I'm the same. It's really rude to just grab at someone's plate, especially when you know full well she doesn't want you to. Why do you think your desire for her food outweighs what she wants? The constant justifications from the OP indicate that he clearly doesn't think he's done anything wrong and is not learning anything from this thread, which has been you're the jerk all the way. She knows I like my food scalding hot, except it's not your food, is it? No, it's not. Leave her alone. You sound like a toddler or a golden retriever that was given the gift of speech. You are not entitled to her food and definitely not on your own terms, you weirdo. You're the jerk. You're the jerk. Nobody cares that you like your food scalding hot. You can heat up her leftovers when she's done eating. The absolute nerve to eat off another person's plate even after being told no. Are you human or are you a hyena? Not the jerk. My husband grabs food off my plate all the time. I couldn't care less. Why? Because A, he knows I'm done with it and not planning to eat it anymore. And B, he's the one who pays for it. My heart goes out to you younger guys around my son's age. He's had several girlfriends and they always just seem so mean. It's like they have a chip on their shoulder about everything. Maybe they were spoiled growing up. I ask him if he's attracted to that kind of an attitude, and he tells me, no, Mom, but they're all like that now. Here's my advice to you, the same thing I tell my son. Stop trying to force a relationship with someone who isn't sweet. Just be patient, and one day the Lord will bring her into your life, and you'll have a sweet girlfriend who won't flip out on you for eating her leftovers.
If you tried taking anything off my plate, Reddit boy, you'd need some new fingers.
Dealing with an entitled neighbor. Just flipping through a few stories and reading about entitled drivers getting their just desserts. This made me think back to my days as a paramedic. We got a call to a house where there was a bariatric patient who had fallen. The patient was morbidly obese and weighed around 30 stone, 420 pounds. This story isn't really about them though. There are many reasons people get to this size, and I've never judged, only helped. No, the problem here was a really arrogant neighbor we had come across before, and boy was this chap a judgmental moron. Our patient had a car and had a disabled parking permit. They also had a council-designated disabled parking spot outside their home, which the neighbor kept parking in. There had been a number of letters from the council regarding this and a number of parking fines just served to annoy this chap even more. On the day of this story, I took the call that the patient had fallen and we went to the house. Sure enough, the neighbor was not only parked in the disabled spot, but had parked his second car blocking access to the patient's driveway. I assessed the patient and suspected they had a broken hip, so needed to go in. I sent my colleague around to the neighbor to ask them to move the cars, and when they came back, I was told the neighbor had just told my colleague to do one. No problem. Time to get the message home. I radioed through to our control center and asked for the fire service and police. We needed the fire service to help lift the guy and the police to do a little parking control. The fire station were the first to arrive, and I spoke to the crew commander to let them know what the situation was. A fireman went to the house to ask the neighbor to move the car and was told the same thing as my colleague. The message was relayed back, and the watch commander just asked me one question. Is the patient's life at risk? I knew exactly where this was going, and it was time our thoughtless neighbor got the message. My answer was, yes, there's equipment I need to get into the house, and the driveway is blocked, preventing me from doing so. The watch commander told the fire truck driver to move those vehicles. It was really satisfying to see both vehicles being pushed down the road by the fire service, and the look on the neighbor's face as he came out spitting and screaming was well worth seeing. His complaints to the police fell on deaf ears. They were well aware of his history of obstruction, and my clinical assessment that the patient's life was in danger was more than enough justification for the vehicles to be moved. I doubt it made our patient's life any easier, and sadly they passed a few months later without leaving the hospital, but it really did bring a smile to their face as we wheeled them out. Am I the jerk for laughing in my stepmom's face and then kicking my dad out? I'm 21, male. My parents weren't ready for kids when they had me. My uncle and aunt, my uncle is my grandma's youngest brother on my dad's side, wanted kids, so me coming along was pretty much perfect for them. My uncle and aunt are farmers, and I live and work on the farm with them and my girlfriend. My mom and dad used to visit, but stopped when I was around 8 because my dad met his now wife, and my mom started dating her boyfriend, and I haven't seen them since until my 21st birthday, and that was the last time I saw my dad until today. I don't actually call my dad Dad, I call Uncle Dad or Pop, and my aunt Mom. I just wrote it that way I did so it wouldn't get confusing, and so I could stay under the character limit. My aunt, stepmom, and stepsister, who's 13, came over today. I was in the stable with my horse. I was brushing her and talking to her. My stepmom brought my stepsister to the stable and pet some of the other horses. After a bit, my stepmom pulled me aside and asked me to stop talking to my horse because she thought only freaks talk to animals and she didn't want my stepsister to take after me. I laughed in her face at that, then realized she was serious. I told her I wasn't going to stop talking to my horse. After my girlfriend, that horse is my best friend and I like to talk to her. She got mad and grabbed my stepsister and stormed away. A little later, I was telling my girlfriend about what my stepmom said and my dad walked over. He started to scold me for disrespecting his wife. I said, I only said I wouldn't stop talking to my horse. What's the big deal? And he said, you laughed in her face. I know your aunt and uncle didn't raise you properly. That upset me and my girlfriend could see it in my face. She tried to de-escalate, but my dad kept talking over her. That's when I snapped. I said, you weren't there for 13 years. You were barely around to begin with. You know nothing about my lifestyle and what me being raised properly looks like. At this point, my aunt, uncle, stepmom, and stepsister heard the commotion and came out. My dad said, well, you still disrespected my wife. And I said, she called me a freak, and I'm the one being disrespectful? He said, almost yelling, you have to respect your elders. At this point, I was done arguing, so I told him to leave. He tried to argue, but all he got out was, before I cut him off and said, leaving. He was getting really mad, but my uncle came to my defense and they eventually left, but my stepmom screamed that I was a jerk before they left. Am I the jerk for laughing in my stepmom's face, then kicking my dad out? Not the jerk. Your stepmother sounds like an absolutely ridiculous human. It's disappointing that your father defended her. Good for you for standing up for yourself. Am I the jerk for refusing to give up my seat on an airplane? I, 15, female, was flying for the first time to Florida. Due to some childhood issues, I get bad anxiety when being yelled at for something that I can't control. I arrived at the airport, and being a minor flying for the first time, my mom was able to walk me all the way to the gate. She told them I was a minor and that this was my first time flying, so that it would help lessen the anxiety I had of having to be on the plane by myself. When it was finally my turn to board the plane, the flight attendant, to help ease my anxiety, introduced me to the pilots and I was able to see in a little bit. The flight attendant took me to my seat. I made sure to book and pay for a window seat so I can look out the window and also not have to keep getting up whenever anyone had to use the bathroom. There was some girl in my seat and the flight attendant kindly told her that she was in the wrong seat and that she had to sit in the seat that was on her ticket. She was not happy and her boyfriend said I could just sit in the aisle seat. The flight attendant knew why I wanted a window seat and about the anxiety, as my mom told them before I boarded, so the flight attendant told the woman she had to move. I was able to sit in my seat, but once the flight attendant left, they both started losing it on me and commenting about how I ruined their flight. My anxiety was getting really bad. It felt like I couldn't breathe and I wanted to get off the plane. I stood up and walked up towards the front as it was a small plane. The flight attendant asked me what was wrong as I was crying now. I was nervous and scared and didn't say anything. The only thing I said was, I want to get off of the plane. Another flight attendant went over to my original seat to see what had happened, and of course, the couple said nothing happened, but the man behind me who heard them spoke up and told them what had happened. Some man at the front of the plane told me to switch seats since we both had a window seat, and he sat in my seat so that the couple couldn't have the window seat, and I got his window seat. The rest of the flight went okay, besides I was extremely scared of the takeoff and landing and the turbulence. When I told my family, some of them said I should have just sat in the aisle instead of making a big deal, or once I sat down, I shouldn't have gotten up and just ignored their comments. It's not like they got kicked off the flight or anything, but I do feel like I might be the jerk and that I could have handled it a little bit differently. Not the jerk. Kudos to the man behind you for helping you out, and for the kind man who changed seats with you so that you can have a window seat. Your family should be more sympathetic though, knowing about your anxiety. Am I the jerk for not paying for my son's friend's childcare? My husband and I employ a nanny, Poppy, for our 2- and 6-year-old. In her contract, Poppy states that she'll host the occasional playdate whilst on the clock for the same rate, $28 an hour, but only one extra kid at a time and for no more than 3 hours. It also can't be a consistent thing, or she'll require to be paid a separate rate for that kid. We are careful to follow said policy, along with the rest, as we love her and we want to keep her on. Our 6-year-old has a friend, James. He's come over for a few playdates during the school year. He has a single mom that works crazy hours, so a few times this summer, we've paid Poppy more to watch all 3 kids. It amounts to $30 an hour, which quickly adds up. But it was worth the investment occasionally so Nanny could focus on the toddler while James and our son played. Recently, James' mom approached us and said that her summer care fell through. She asked if Poppy could watch him 5 days a week for 8 hours a day. We asked, and she said this was a nanny share situation. We'd have to each pay 2/3 of her salary, which rounded up is $20 an hour per family, $800 a week per family. This would be a better deal for us anyway, so we were down. We told James' mom, and she said there was no way she could afford that. We offered to pay $30, leaving her to pay $400 a week. She said at that point it would be a better deal to just stay home. She asked why we can't pay all of it to help her out. We offered alternatives, sending her links to summer programs that care for school-aged kids on a sliding scale. She said that most of them are filled and that the 2 that aren't are also too expensive. It would be an extra $480 a week to do this, and while we can't afford it, it just doesn't seem financially responsible, nor is it our responsibility to pay for this kid's care. We're worried about what this will do in the long run. We ultimately told James' mom no. She started crying and said she doesn't know what to do. She can't bring him to work with her and can't afford care. She said we were being selfish with our money. Are we being jerks? Not the jerk. You're not responsible for paying for someone else's childcare, whether you can afford it or not. 86-cent tip. Now you might be thinking, oh no, that's really bad. Yeah, I would have thought so too, but I want to share why I'm not mad that I got an 86-cent tip. I only was scheduled 1 day this week, and when I went in for my shift, I got a table fairly quickly. It was just a one-top, a little older lady. She kind of reminded me of the iguana assistant from the movie Sing, but not in a bad way. She was one of the sweetest customers I've had in such a long time, very polite, wasn't rude at all, and was really nice to me in general. Now, my restaurant uses the Presto systems to pay. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a table tablet thing that your table pays on. They can also play games and stuff too. Basically, these things are a real pain, especially for the older crowd. I don't know why they thought this customer base was the best for upgraded payment systems, but whatever. So the lady pays, and she tells me she accidentally forgot to tip, but she wanted to tip me because she really enjoyed my service. Her bill was about $50. Now, I was going to find my manager to pull back her receipt. We need manager's cards for certain things on the computers. But when I walked in the office, the bartender was filling out an incident report. So I backed out slowly and went back to the lady. I couldn't have printed the receipt to sign either because there's no option for that after it's printed after using the Presto. I just figured I would ring in something cheap and she could leave a tip on that. So that's what I did. Rang in something that was like $3. She paid for it and said she was gonna leave 20%. I didn't think about it until I looked at the notification for how much I got tipped. It was only 86 cents. And honestly, I just kind of laughed. I wasn't upset about it. The lady really did try to tip me 20% of her original bill, but it was just a weird situation. It really was the thought that counted, to be honest. Honestly, if it was any other table, I probably would have been upset. Accidents happen. My husband is a doctor. I deserve to be seen now. Come here, you fine people, and listen to the story of another Karen in the emergency room. I worked the day shift today. In Germany, we work 5 8-hour shifts a week and have 2 days off, not like the 12-hour shifts which our friends in the US are pulling. We have a 3-shift system, morning, day, and night.
My day shift starts at 11:30 a.m. and ends at 8 p.m. regularly, but I work mostly overtime since lockdown. It was a really cool shift today. I worked with my work wife, my work boyfriend, and other nurses I'm cool with. So, yay. Patients were dripping in slowly. Nothing major. A broken leg, a bee sting, an allergic reaction, and a dog bite. Normal stuff. But then I felt a disturbance in the force. The room temperature dropped like 5 degrees downwards. All the dogs in a 3-mile radius started howling. Something unholy set foot in the hospital. A monster every service and retail worker fears. The mortal enemy of every manager. A mom bee. A middle-aged, middle to upper class lady. A Karen with her kid. Like the Sith, there are always two of them. A master and a student. I sat at the front desk and did some desk work, scheduling some x-rays and MRIs, handling with some insurance IDs and so on. Clearing throat.
Excuse me?
The battle cry of the Karen. In front of me stood a middle-aged lady, fake pink nails, and clutching the wrist of her kid. The girl pressed a piece of paper on her forehead, probably bumped her head and maybe needed some stitches. Me. How can I help you? Karen.
My princess bumped her head. She needs help. She may have a concussion.
Me. How are you feeling, sweetie? Kid. I'm fine, but my head hurts. Me. Coming around the front counter. Did she faint? Karen.
No.
Did she throw up?
No.
Okay, sweetie. Can I have a quick look at it? She showed me her forehead. She had a laceration and probably needed some stitches. I then checked her eyes with a little light. I was sure she had not had a concussion. Me. Okay, please fill out these forms and the next available doctor will look at your daughter. Karen.
What? My kid needs medical attention now. My husband is a surgeon here, so get going.
Me. Massaging my nose in a very annoyed way. Please fill out these forms and sit down and wait, miss. All our doctors are busy with patients right now. Karen.
Don't you listen, boy?
Boy? Lady, I'm 24 years old.
My husband is a surgeon. He's on good terms with the management, so watch your mouth.
Me. Looked her dead in the eyes. Take the forms, fill them out, sit down, and the next doctor will have a look at your daughter's head. She probably noticed that I didn't take her crap. I'm working the ER since I finished nursing school. I developed really thick skin. I got yelled at, spit at, punched, and shoved, and got thrown at with stuff like cans. They waited maybe half an hour until the ER doctor could look at the kid. And what a surprise, no concussion. Just 3 stitches on the forehead. And, does she have a concussion? I asked with my best grin when she passed the front desk again. She just huffed and left the ER. And now the best part. Near the end of the shift, a surgeon came into the ER. He asked especially for me and apologized for his wife's behavior. He will tear her a new one when he gets home today. I told the doctor, no problem. I've seen worse. Just talk to your wife and tell your kid I hope she gets well soon. The kid was quiet the whole time and was a really sweet kiddo. God, I hope she doesn't end up like her mother. I hope the Karens go out with the baby boomers like the dinosaurs did with the comet. My ex is trying to force me to adopt her son. My wife and I separated about a year ago after 6 years of marriage, but we are not legally divorced yet. We have 2 kids together who are 4 and 2. We both had previous marriages and had kids from those marriages. My kids, who are 12 and 10, have always had a good relationship with their mother, but my stepson, who's 11, hasn't seen his biological father in years. We started seriously discussing the divorce after deciding that it is basically impossible for us to reconcile. We are happy to split custody of our kids and are committed to ensuring that they grow up feeling safe and loved and as stable as possible. But my wife also wants me to commit to having a parental relationship with my stepson because he does not have any other father figures in his life. I refused. I have nothing against the kid personally, but we've both always acknowledged that I wasn't his father. He never called me dad, and I never asked him to. And to share custody of him like I do my biological kids, it sounds insane to me. My wife is upset because her son has started talking to her about how he feels he doesn't have a dad. I understand that must be uncomfortable, but he isn't my son. She needs to talk to his actual father about that. However, when I discussed this with my friends, I got a mixed response. Some agreed with me, some agreed fully with my wife,
And some have said I should have committed to that for a limited amount of time for the adjustment period, but it's been almost a year since we've lived together as it is. I don't want to ruin the kid's life, but I don't see why he should be partially my responsibility anymore. Am I the jerk? Edit. To clarify, his father was involved in his life until he was about 6 or 7, and then he disappeared, so I'm not the only father figure he's ever had. Not the jerk. If your soon-to-be ex remarries, your having taken any responsibility for her son would make that really weird. Also, if you take any responsibility for the kid, you may end up paying child support. So sad for the kid, but she would do better to get him involved with big brothers. I don't know. If he's not your son, I get it. But at 11 years old, after 6 years of marriage and 1 of separation, you're realistically the only father figure this kid has ever had. I'm going to say not the jerk because you really aren't obligated to do anything, and it would be a burden for you to accept joint custody. But you've got a chance here to maybe have an ongoing positive influence in this kid's life. Don't pass that up without thinking long and hard about it. Info. Is she expecting child support for your stepson? Or just you still being in his life since you really are the only father figure he knows? I don't think you're the jerk necessarily, but this is a really crappy situation for your stepson, and I imagine could cause some issues between him and his siblings. Also, the kid is 11. Have you considered what he wants? Has anyone asked him? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his ex-wife? Please let us know.
Oh, this is a good one. I can't wait to read the comments we get about it.
Am I the jerk for holding my son's college funds hostage? I, 48 male, have a son that graduated this year from high school. We, my wife and I, started his college fund the minute we found out she was pregnant. Since we make good money, in the mid-6 figures, his college fund currently has almost $400,000 in it. We've never told our son what to do with his life. We may have guided his decisions as any good parent should, but since he was still young, we let him make his own decisions. We also never expected academic excellence or forced him into any sports or artistic activities. Now that he's graduated high school, he said that he did not want to go to college. We said as long as he was sure, he could whatever he wanted. He refused trade schools too. He also did not want to work with us in our business. He said that he planned to use his college fund to start a business of his own. I said that I will allow it only if he takes some business management, accounting, and law classes in the nearby community college. I said that I would pay them out of pocket and not from the fund, and then I would expect a well-made business plan before I would give him the money. My wife agrees 100%. But he called us jerks for holding his college fund hostage to make him do what we want. We think we are just doing our best to make sure that his business succeeds. So, am I the jerk? Edit. Oh wow, I logged off 5 minutes ago after posting. Logged back in expecting maybe 100 comments at most. Thank you everyone. I read every single one and decided to answer the most relevant questions here. So the money is in my wife and I's name. Some people said that this discussion should have been had earlier. Well, earlier he said he wanted to take a couple years off to work before going to college. It wasn't until earlier last week that he said he wanted to start a business. Some people also say that he is spoiled and doesn't know how fast that money can disappear, and they are right. I ran away from a bad home at 16, worked for my father-in-law, and got paid under the table until I was able to work legally. The only reason I have the money I do is that I married the boss's daughter, and her father left us a paid-off house and a booming business. He moved to Spain to enjoy retirement. I didn't even get my GED and go to college until I had my kid. So I spoiled my kid like I wish I was spoiled. That is also the reason why I asked. I live in fear of doing something that could make me like my parents, and I know this community is full of younger people who might give me a different perspective. So thank you everyone. I'll probably get downvoted, but not the jerk. You're not holding it hostage for any selfish reason. You're trying to get him to stay on a good track in life. You even offered to pay for the classes out of pocket and not from the college fund. You're trying to support him, but you're also trying to stay realistic and make sure he knows what he's doing so he doesn't make a $400,000 mistake. Not the jerk at all. You and your wife are incredibly generous and have set super reasonable guidelines of how you'd like the money to be spent. Not to mention, if he started a business, there's a good chance it would not even take off. So I think it is incredibly generous for you to support that expense as well, and it seems wise to have a couple caveats in place if he chooses to go that route. I think your son is acting incredibly entitled and doesn't realize how lucky he is to even have a college fund set aside for him. So many adults are dealing with student debt. He needs some big picture perspective. It sounds to me like you're doing everything right in this scenario, and how awesome that you and your wife had the foresight and the means to contribute to a college fund for your son. Way to go, Dad. Not the jerk. It's not his college fund. It's parents' money saved for his future. Already, you're being very open-minded to not mandate college. The classes seem a bare minimum safety before handing a teenager almost $500,000. I think even after the classes, I would treat the fund as an investor. That only provides part of the funding until the business meets certain benchmarks and then release more funds. Well, who do you think is the jerk? Dad or his son? Please let us know.
The audacity of some of these kids from the stories we read, I just can't believe it.
Boomer pushed to the edge over 60 cents. The scene. It's a local McDonald's in the summer of 2020. Lockdown is raging, and I'm a young shift manager handing drinks out the drive-thru window. An old man pulls up, and I hand him his cappuccino. Boomer.
I didn't order a hot beverage.
Me. Yes, you did, sir. This is a cappuccino, unless you wanted the iced coffee frap. Boomer.
Yeah, one of those iced cappuccino things.
Me. That's Tim Hortons. There's one right across the street if you'd like.
Okay, take this warm crab back and give me my money.
Me. Unfortunately, I can't take anything back into the restaurant because of the lockdown. I can still refund you, though.
No, I don't want it. Take it back.
Me. Once you've touched it, I can't, sir. I'm sorry. Boomer proceeds to mutter about whatever and peels off. I see him pull around, get out of his car. I find a coworker to cover me while I head over to the front counter. I know this guy is upset, and I'm ready to make his day even harder. He storms in.
Give me one of those iced frappuccino things. I don't want this.
Me. Sir, I still can't take it back, but there's garbage all around you. He takes a step back, removes the lid, and lifts the cup as if to pour it onto the floor.
Fine, I'll pour it all over the floor then.
Me. No, you won't. A standoff ensues. I ring up an iced coffee frap and see that his refund is about 60 cents short of the frap. Normally, I would waive that without a second thought for customer satisfaction. It's McDonald's. 60 cents doesn't mean anything to them. But when you threaten to pour your drink out like a kid, you lose that generosity. Me. Look, would you like the frap? I have your refund right here, and I can put it toward the frap.
Fine.
He then proceeds to throw his cappuccino out. Me. Unfortunately, sir, the frap is 60 cents more expensive than what you paid for it. I'm gonna need you to pay the difference because the cappuccino was an honest mistake on our end, considering what you thought you were ordering.
What?
I don't say anything. He proceeds to yell every word in the book at me while I stare him down unchanged. At this point, I had handled him start to finish. My senior manager jumped in once Boomer yelled loud enough for the whole restaurant to hear and kicked him out without a second thought. The Boomer left without his refund, cappuccino, or frap. It was a good day. Edit. For my non-Canadian friends, the gentleman wanted an iced cap, which is a very distinct beverage from Tim Hortons. The iced frap, or any other variation of iced cappuccino, was not what he was looking for. His day would have been fine if he had taken his money out the window and drove across the street to Tim's. Am I the jerk for calling my girlfriend spoiled after she said she felt like a Neanderthal showering with a bucket? My girlfriend and I are currently in vacation in Croatia. We booked a small villa from Airbnb in which we have been staying this last week. 3 days ago, the water heater stopped working, so we called the owner. A few hours later, he brought a plumber with him. After some investigation, he told us the issue will take a week or more to solve because the plumber told him that the heater was old and needed replacing, so he needs to shop for a new one and then it needs to be installed in a new location. He told us he was going to refund the amount we paid for that day, plus the remaining days of our booking, and if we wanted to stay despite the lack of hot water, he was going to give us a much cheaper rate, 40% off. We were having a great time and enjoying our stay because the villa was nice and the view of the beach was incredible and looked 10 times better than the heavily edited pictures you see on the internet. Not to mention, it was a good deal, especially with the newer rate, so we decided to stay after I told my girlfriend that we could just shower using a bucket. Something to note, my girlfriend has never showered that way. She's American, but still I assume that many people from the US would have at least heard about it despite never trying it. Growing up, I exclusively showered that way at home until we could afford a heater and its monthly costs. The only showers I took at home before were with cold water. She was surprised to hear it and thought I was joking at first. The following day, I gave her some tips, and after she was done, I asked her how it went. She said it was more of a chore than a shower. Last evening, she went to take a shower again before getting ready to leave for dinner. After she was done, she started complaining nonstop about showering with a bucket, saying it was very primitive and couldn't believe that some people really did it this way because she felt like a Neanderthal the whole time. I didn't like her comment because it was disrespectful. She apologized, saying her comment wasn't directed towards me, but more towards the people that still shower this way. I told her that her clarification makes her comment 100 times worse because it was insulting to a lot of people. She replied that she didn't know what I wanted her to say because she had already apologized to me and asked if I just was looking for a reason to argue. I told her that the last thing I want to do is argue with a spoiled kid and went downstairs. I waited for her while downstairs and she got ready. When she came downstairs, she informed me that she'll be going to the restaurant alone because she didn't want to embarrass me in case she started acting like a spoiled kid. I tried apologizing for my comment, but she just ignored me and left. It's 3:30 now, and she just came back half an hour ago. I tried talking to her again, but she told me she was tired and just wanted to go to sleep. Edit. Someone told me to add my response to this post. It was a suggestion that she agreed with because we both didn't want to leave the villa because of what I mentioned in the post, and since most of the houses by the beach side were booked and the ones we found available were way too expensive for us to afford. We discussed showering at the public showers by the beach, but they only had cold water, and the fact that they were public, the closest gym was 25 minutes away, so it wasn't viable to waste approximately an hour each day to shower unless we planned our days around it because we don't visit the downtown every day. We both decided to stay after I suggested we could shower with hot water using a bucket. It's not like I'm forcing her to stay or shower with a bucket. We could just find another place to stay at for the remainder of our vacation, even if it's not as nice as the villa. Not the jerk. She was acting like a spoiled kid. She doesn't even realize what a privilege it is to be able to complain about that sort of thing. Lol, it's a fair thing to complain about. I'll agree that for those who are not used to it and did not expect it, it is a fair thing to complain about within reason. Continuing to go on and on about it and then be ignorantly insulting to those who do it out of necessity is not at all within reason, especially considering the person she was there with literally had to do that due to necessity. Everyone sucks here. Her comments were insensitive, but your response was deliberately insulting. Edit. You can all stop lecturing me in the replies. I'm not excusing her comments. She definitely needs to learn to examine her privilege and adjust the way she thinks and speaks. Still doesn't mean her boyfriend gets a free pass for calling her a spoiled kid. Insults don't really promote a teachable moment. Everyone sucks here. I'm American and have never showered with a bucket or ever really heard of people showering that way. It's like one of those abstract things you probably know if you used common sense, but yes, because we're privileged, we don't think about it. Taking that into consideration, if I was staying at a villa on vacation, I would be irritated if I had to use a bucket to shower and would very likely complain about it being more of an inconvenience than a regular shower, because it is. I mean, it's vacation. I would assume she was probably trying to make a comparison to express her frustration and was truly not trying to be insulting to a majority of the world population. Americans are known to be lacking self-awareness. Does that make us jerks? Yes, clearly. Is it intentional? Definitely not always. You seem to take her comment as a personal attack, although it wasn't one, and you threw a personal attack back at her that I'm guessing was to hurt her on purpose. Was she acting privileged? Yes. Did you need to call her a spoiled kid? Probably not. Both jerks, but both with a bit of valid reasons on both sides. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know.
She needs to check her privilege.
Am I the jerk for making my brother live with my parents? My wife, 27 female, is diabetic, so she obviously keeps sweets in case she needs them. She has a stash in the pantry with a few foods to bring up her blood sugar. My brother, 32 male, is staying with us while he gets a job and works up some money to get another apartment. We have a rather big house. He's sleeping in the guest room, which is on the other side of our bedroom and office. He's staying here for free. He, at the time, didn't have to pay anything. No groceries, no water bill, rent-free, and my wife washes his laundry, which I've told her not to do because he can do it just fine. He just has to show how much money he's supposed to be making so we know he's actually doing something. We have 3 set rules. Do not leave your mess everywhere. If you are going out late, don't come in loudly. And do not touch my wife's stash. We've told him exactly why, and if he wants something in there, he can write it down on the list of groceries that we have, and we go every Friday. But don't touch that, as it's specifically for her. While I'm at work, my wife texted me asking me to pick up a list of things all from her stash. I was confused because she just got more, but when I got there, everything was gone. All of it. Every candy she had in there had vanished. I asked her where it all went, and she had no idea where it went. Thank God she had some in her purse. I asked my brother, and he started laughing, saying he took them as a prank. Those are meant to be funny, not health-threatening. I told him that he cannot ever do that again, and if that happens, he won't have access to the pantry, and he's incredibly immature. I told him what happens if she doesn't keep her blood sugar up. He apologized to her, we stocked up. A week later, gone again. I went straight to him. He said he ate them. I told him he's now going to be buying his own groceries. He tried to plead and say he just had a sweet tooth, and that's the only thing he could find. I gave him a final warning and said that if this happens again, he won't be welcome here. I suggested he go to my parents' house then. My wife said she will just bring her stash into our room. We were good for about a month until my wife texted me again while at work, understandably upset, and again, he took her whole thing. This time, I told him he's going to have to stay with our parents. Our parents welcomed him. However, now he's told our whole family, and they are all blasting me on social media, even on Reddit, about how much of a horrible brother I am for kicking him out, and I could have just put a lock on my bedroom. I love my brother. I want him to succeed, but I can't keep helping him when he's literally making our home unsafe. I don't see why I have to child-proof my house from a 32-year-old man. I gave him 3 strikes. However, these messages are getting to my head. Was I being the jerk here? Not the jerk. Put a lock on your room? In your own house? Forget that. Your family is insane. Your brother is a jerk in his 30s, and you gave him multiple warnings. Anyone siding with him should be cut off as well. My man, were he my brother, he would have been out and won. If you are the jerk, it's only because you didn't kick him out sooner. Imagine how different the conversation would have been if your diabetic wife had to be rushed to the hospital, or worse, because something she relied on wasn't there, for a prank. I must sign a name every time I enter the gym? Okay, no problem. This took place years ago when I was in college. I won't say where, it really doesn't matter. But what does matter was I would go to the gym every day back then. At the entrance, there was a desk with a sign-in sheet and staff member there to check your student ID. Now, most of these people were minimum wage students at the school manning the desk, so no one really actually cared if you checked in or had your student ID. I got into the habit of simply walking in and saying hi as I passed the front desk and starting my workout routine. Until one day, a Karen type thought that I was a jerk because I didn't sign in.
Get back here and sign in.
What?
Come back and sign in. You can't enter without signing a name.
Now, I was in my workout shorts, didn't have my wallet and student ID on me, and told her so.
I don't care about your ID. Just put a name down.
So you don't care to check my ID, but I'm forced to write a name, not my name, down? Cue malicious compliance. Sure, no problem. That was the day Miles Davis came to work out. Each day following, I wrote a different celebrity name. I started off under the radar with people that not everyone would know about, like Duke Robillard, jazz blues guitarist, Dwight Yoakam, country singer, Pete Mitchell, Maverick from Top Gun. No one ever asked for ID. Heck, aside from that one day and lady, no one even looked at what I was writing for a name. So it continued. It became a game for me to see how long I could go unnoticed. I'm a huge Star Trek fan, so every single member of multiple series casts had visited, from William Shatner and James Doohan to Patrick Stewart and Will Wheaton. Even Tasha Yar made an appearance before being never again heard from. Thanks, Armus. So I got bolder. I was Sean Connery, Austin Powers, Dave Matthews, JFK, etc. On holidays, I always was someone related. Like on Columbus Day, I was Cristobal Colon, his real name, not the Americanized version. This went on for several years before I graduated. Not a single person asked for ID or bothered to check which name I was writing. Turns out, minimum wage kids don't really care to check IDs. To this day, I still smile at whoever was collecting these lists, sighing out loud with an audible, "Oh, come on," yet imagining their frustration growing because none of the students at the desk cared to check my name and ID. Am I the jerk for making my 13-year-old niece return the birthday presents I bought for her because she was giving me attitude? I, 43 female, have been very involved in my niece's life. She's 13, Scarlett. I frequently visit my sister and brother-in-law and often have auntie days with Scarlett, her sister, and my own kids. Scarlett is a beautiful, creative, and clever girl, but she unfortunately can have an entitled attitude. Her parents are middle class. My sister works part-time while my brother-in-law is a magnet school principal. We explained to Scarlett that she is not going to get everything she wants in life, but we will always make sure she has whatever she needs. Scarlett isn't the only one who gets told no, as this applies to every kid in our family. Scarlett still believes that because certain kids at her school have more money than her, she should always get expensive things too. She also has an attitude that because my partner and I make more money, we should buy pricey things for her. My sister and brother-in-law just continue to enforce boundaries and say they are waiting for when Scarlett matures. Scarlett's birthday is in a week. We will be on vacation on the actual day. So 2 days ago, I treated Scarlett to a mall trip. We had a spa day, got lunch, then we're about to head home when Scarlett said she wanted to go to the Apple store. Scarlett showed me one of the MacBook Air laptops and told me that she wanted it. I asked if the Chromebook I got for her school was broken. She said it worked, but a girl in her class had a MacBook Air, so she wanted one too. I explained to Scarlett that if she were willing to wait until Christmas, I could try to find one on sale, but I couldn't afford it at the current price. Scarlett began to throw a tantrum because my son has a laptop that's over $2,000. A laptop I got secondhand and which my son has used for over 8 years. I explained this to her, but Scarlett continued her tantrum, calling me a greedy jerk. I firmly told her, "Scarlett, if you do not stop this behavior right now, I will return your other gifts and you will get nothing from me." Scarlett continued to talk to me like this, so I told her, "That's it." We walked back to all the stores and returned everything. Glittery phone case, jewelry, stuffed animals, everything. The only thing I did not return was a book, but I kept it and told Scarlett I will hold on to it until I feel she has learned to be grateful. Scarlett whined in the car about not getting the things, and I told her, "Scarlett, if you had been grateful, you would have gotten all those things, but you weren't, and now you have nothing from me. Many kids' families can't even afford food. I want you to really think about all the things you have and learn to be grateful." My sister and brother-in-law agreed with my actions, but my brother-in-law's parents say I was cruel to take birthday presents from a kid and that they would be rebuying Scarlett the gifts I returned. I don't believe in rewarding bad behavior, and Scarlett will never be content until she learns to be grateful. Am I the jerk? Okay, I was ready to be mad at you, but after reading this, I'm not. She's 13. You gave her a clear warning, explained the consequences, and gave her time to change her actions. She didn't, so you followed through with the consequence. I'd say that's reasonable. Not the jerk. Not the jerk. She called you names. If I had ever spoken to an adult like that at her age, I would have probably been grounded for a year. Not sure if she has always used this kind of language with adults when she's angry, but her behavior needs to be checked before she does it to someone that does not care for her the way you do, such as a school teacher or a classmate, and gets suspended. You were right to return her birthday gifts because bad behavior should never be rewarded. Returning them was the consequence of her actions. Well, what do you think? Was it wrong of OP to return all of Scarlett's gifts or not? Please let us know.
I would have recorded the tantrum and posted it for all her friends to laugh at. You gotta hold these brats accountable or they'll never learn.
Am I the jerk for going into my ex-wife's house in the middle of the night to check on my daughter? I'm 38, male. My ex-wife, Linda, who's 36, and I have 2 kids, Lily, who's 9, and Liam, who's 11. Lily's had type 1 diabetes since she was very young, and the 3 of us manage it pretty well, although there's always room for improvement. Part of that is Lily wearing a continuous glucose monitor that can send data and alerts to our phones. Last night at around 11:30 p.m., I got a notification that Lily's sugar was below 60. As Linda would have received the same alert, I gave it about 10 minutes and checked again. Her sugar was still falling. It was in the low 50s. I sent Linda a text asking if she had seen the alert and taken care of Lily. I did not get a response. 10 minutes later, the app showed that her blood sugar was low enough that it just displayed low. I called Linda to make sure everything was okay. I didn't get an answer. I called and texted several times, but still nothing. At 12 a.m., there was no indication that her blood sugar was rising. I tried to FaceTime Lily and called and texted Linda. I then went into Find My iPhone and played a tone on Lily's phone, hoping someone would hear it, but got nothing. I called her mom so she could try to call Linda. I was hoping that Linda's phone was on Do Not Disturb and her mom could get through. Nothing. I was getting really scared, so I drove the 30 minutes over to Linda's house, calling and texting her the entire time. On the drive over, Lily's phone stopped working and sending data, but at around 12:15 it was still low. I used the keys Linda gave me to go in. Lily woke up startled, but she was okay. Linda lost her mind, yelling at me from her room to get out of her house and telling me that I can't come in there like that. I was there for about 30 seconds to a minute, and on my way out tried to explain why I was worried and just got screamed at out the door. This morning she called me and angrily said that she knows how to take care of our daughter and I can't do that, and asked for my keys back. She didn't care at all that I was worried about Lily's continuous low alerts or that I couldn't reach her or Lily on their phone, and said that if I had a legitimate concern, I should have called 911. I suggested that she set up a few numbers in her phone that will ring through on the second attempt in case of an emergency. She was completely against that idea because she has a hard time sleeping at night, and that if there were an actual emergency, there's nothing she could do about it at night anyway. I understand that she was upset and probably terrified being woken up in the middle of the night by someone in her home, but she seemed not to care about the extenuating circumstances or the simple solution to me not feeling like I need to drive over there or call 911. So, am I the jerk for going over there to make sure that our daughter was okay? Notes: I've never gone into Linda's house without her explicitly asking me to, and the few times I sent a text to Linda in the middle of the night about alerts, I've received responses. Edit: I did knock several times and called for them very loudly before using the key. I really didn't want to unnecessarily scare them awake with a loud voice inside their house in the middle of the night if I didn't have to. She did take care of the low blood sugar situation before I got there. She just didn't see my dozens of texts or calls to respond. Edit 2. This is in no way a common thing for us. I don't want to give the impression that she is neglecting her. The reason I reacted the way that I did was that it was a unique situation with extenuating circumstances. You're the jerk. I don't buy your story. You were concerned about an urgent medical emergency, but instead of calling 911 to get an ambulance there ASAP, you drove for 30 minutes yourself? BS. You banged for ages on the door and nobody woke up, but they're awake immediately as soon as you're in the door? BS. OP. I didn't say I banged for ages. I knocked loudly and called for them about 3 or 4 times. Their rooms are on the other side of the house, and they didn't respond until I got upstairs. I stayed by the door and called out twice before going upstairs. I didn't call 911 because I thought she'd be more upset if I had done that. You don't buy my story? That's okay, but why? Why do you think I'd want to go all the way over there this one time after we've been divorced for 4 years and caring for the kid just fine on our own? This was an outlining situation. I didn't know what to do. I got scared, but also worried about being yelled at or looking like an idiot for overreacting if I had called 911. I wasn't sure how to react. Next time, hopefully there won't be one, but I'll call 911. You're the jerk. I totally get that hypoglycemia is a medical emergency. As a parent, I totally get the absolute fear and panic that could take over if you thought one of your kids was in danger. But what I don't get is how you could wait so long to act if you were really that concerned. It took her blood sugar 20 minutes to drop from 60s to below 40. At this point, when you were unable to raise anyone to the alarm, it would have been vastly more appropriate to call 911. Instead, you took 30 minutes to drive over. If it was a true medical emergency, you might have been there too late. Also, ignoring your ex-wife's boundaries like this is a good way to get your key privileges revoked. Next time, let the paramedics get yelled at for waking your ex up in the middle of the night. You're the jerk for not calling 911. When you couldn't reach your wife, your first thought should have been to get help ASAP to your daughter. You wasted a lot of time after you knew how low your daughter's blood sugar was, especially since it was dropping so quickly. Not sure I understand why you left Lily without making sure her blood sugar was normal. Your screaming ex should not have been an impediment to that. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his ex-wife? Please let us know.
Sounds to me like a good dad who loves his daughter. But what do I know? I'm just a Karen.
Karen.
Serve me and my family.
Me. This is gonna be fun. Hey everyone. This happened a little while ago, but I'm finally getting around to posting it. So I'm a college student, and this happened near the end of the previous semester a few months ago. I was just finishing a long day on campus, attending classes and doing homework. I ended the day with a meeting with a professor who was the head of a program on campus, so I was dressed in business casual to make a good impression. When I left campus after the meeting, my wife texted me that she had gone to see a movie with some of her friends and wouldn't be back until late, so I decided to grab a bite to eat at one of my favorite restaurants on my way home, since I wouldn't get to eat dinner with her. I stopped at a place that's well known for breakfast all day. So I stepped inside and I put my name down for a table while chatting with the hostess, as I work in the food industry part-time and I like to chat with restaurant workers. Once my name was down, she said it would only be a minute or two until my table was ready. As the hostess went into the back for a minute, I realized I had a coupon for the restaurant in my car and decided to go retrieve it. Right then, I hear the door open, and as I turn around, I see a Karen and her 4 kids standing right behind me. Characters in this story. We've got me. We've got entitled Mom, the Karen of the day. We've got C1, Karen's oldest kid, maybe 13. We've got C2, Karen's second kid, who was about 9. The other kids don't really play any roles. We've got the chill dad, Karen's husband. He was out parking the car and didn't enter for a few minutes. And we've got the awesome dude in the booth next to me, along with the hostess. Now, to set the stage, I was still in business casual with my best jeans and a blue button-down shirt with a slight scruff of a beard from several days of not shaving, making me look a bit older than my actual age of 24. I was also wearing a lanyard that I carry my keys on. Highly recommend this actually, as it greatly reduces lost key incidents. All in all, I'm not surprised she was initially confused that I was some kind of a manager, but as we all know, first impressions are all that most Karens retain. Karen.
Yes, I need a table of 6 for my family.
Me. I don't. Entitled Mom cuts me off.
Did you hear me? I need a table for 6. Seat us. Put our names on the list. Really? How did you get a job as a manager if you don't even know how to help customers?
Now, to set the stage for how I'm about to react to this Karen, I'm a major nerd, and I'm proud of it. I'm also well known by friends and family for being able to quote lines from movies. And one of my favorite movies of all time is The Princess Bride. It's a perfect movie, and one of the best ever made, so I adore it, and my dream is to one day open a Princess Bride-themed restaurant. Now, I have pretty much the entire script of Princess Bride memorized, and by chance, I had watched it earlier that day while working on a homework assignment. Yes, I sometimes play movies while I work on homework. So the movie was fresh in my mind. Somehow, I'm not sure of how, an idea formed in my head, and I thought I'd have some fun with this Karen. Me. Look, I'm retired. The owner's stinking son fired me, and thank you for bringing up such a painful subject. While you're at it, why don't you give me a nice paper cut and pour lemon juice on it? Karen is stunned, splattering words as she clearly didn't expect a response like this. Kid 1 is grinning and looking like he's trying to stop himself from laughing. I'm guessing he's seen the movie and recognized the line. Me, wanting to get on with this and jar Karen back to her senses so I can have some more fun. Anybody want a peanut? Entitled Mom.
Well, I never. How dare you talk to a customer like that? You're a terrible manager.
Me. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. Entitled Mom, still not getting it.
What is wrong with you? I should tell your boss to fire you for treating customers like this. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Kid 2. Mommy, I think this guy…
Shush. Let me sort this out.
She turns back to me.
Get me your manager.
Me. Beat it, or I'll call the brute squad. Karen, getting red in the face and splattering in anger. Right then, the hostess comes out. It's quickly clear that she heard most, if not all, of the interaction as she's smiling and trying not to laugh. Hostess. Sir, I can seat you now. Deciding to keep up the fun and not able to help myself at this point, I turn to the hostess and ask, I do not mean to pry, but you don't happen to have 6 fingers on your right hand. Both the hostess and Kid 1 are trying not to laugh, while Entitled Mom is fuming. However, before she can explode, the hostess whisks me away to my table. I try to ignore Karen from that point on and start perusing the menu. As I'm trying to decide between a pancake breakfast or steak and eggs, I see the hostess taking the entitled mom and her family, now joined by her husband, to their table. The entitled mom spots me, glares, and has her kids sit down before she storms over to my table with her husband to back her up. I prepare for a little more fun, hoping she'll say something that I can work with.
Karen, you should be ashamed of yourself. I've never been treated like that in a restaurant, let alone by management. Even if you're on break, you should be helping customers if they ask for it. What's your name? I'm reporting you to corporate.
Me, praising the heavens she gave me the chance to use the golden line. Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You hurt my father. Prepare to battle. The entitled mom looks stunned, but the husband's cheeks balloon out and I hear a hiss of air escaping his pursed lips as he tries to stop himself from exploding in laughter right there. I know he also has seen the movie and understands exactly what's going on. I can now see Karen start to realize what's happening. Right then, Awesome Dude, a guy in the booth behind me, turns around and sees. This guy's not a manager, lady. Can't you tell that by now? I can see the gears finally turning in Karen's head as she realizes her mistake and the situation she put herself in. But still wanting to save face, she says,
Well, there was no need to be so rude. Even if you're not an employee, you could have been nicer to us, or at least called an employee for us.
My response, that would be totally inconceivable. At this point, the husband deserves an award for holding in his laughter as he manages to get out. Honey, this guy doesn't work here. Let's just leave him be. The Karen concedes and sulks back to her table. Grinning like a madman, I return to the menu and end up ordering the pancake breakfast. Yes, I like breakfast for dinner. The entitled mom and her family also order and end up getting done before me, as I eat slowly by myself due to the need to play games on my phone while eating. As the entitled mom and her family are leaving, I can't help myself getting in one last laugh and raise my hand to wave as I say, Bye-bye, boys. Have fun storming the castle. At this point, laughter can't be contained, and the husband, kid one, the hostess, and several patrons start laughing. Even the entitled mom, calmed down by now and realized what I'm doing, can't help but let out the smallest of grins, though she refuses to look at me out of embarrassment. Then my day is made as I hear a voice from the booth behind me continue. Awesome Dude. Think it'll work? Me, grinning. It would take a miracle. Both of us. Bye-bye. The family walks out and I give Awesome Dude a fist bump. My server, who had heard the whole thing, brought me out a pair of sausages on the house as thanks for the entertainment. And that, my friends, is how I defeated a Karen with the help of the Princess Bride. Author's note. Think it's fake if you want. I don't care. I still enjoy the memory. Speaking of movies, what's your favorite movie? Please let us know in the comments.
Napoleon Dynamite for the win. That movie just never gets old.
I'm not the vice principal anymore? Okay, so this happened at the end of this school year. I posted what was going on in another group, and several of the people there told me to post what happened here. This story is in 4 parts, and I apologize for the length. I also apologize for any teacher slang I use, as it's like second nature to use it, just like military cargo was when I was in the military. Basically, I was told that all the assistant and vice principals in the district, other than at the high school, were being let go, and a teacher on assignment was going to take our jobs. I was not heartbroken over this, but was treated badly by the new admin team taking my job and my principal's job. Also, I tried to help my staff on my way out, and it seems my bosses cared more about their images than my staff's happiness. So here's the story. Part 1. So none of the other admin in my district had received our contracts for the coming school year yet. I was wondering what was going on, but I heard rumors about a pay scale shift, and that was the reason for it. I found out Wednesday what's actually happening. Every assistant principal and vice principal in the district, why we have 2 titles, I have no idea, is not getting renewed contracts, except for the ones at the high school. Their positions are being eliminated, and their jobs are being replaced with a new position that pays a teacher's salary, plus a $2,000 stipend. They are replacing the assistant principals with learning coordinators. Apparently, the budget is the given reason, but I also heard rumors from someone at the district office. Each of us assistant principals and vice principals were scheduled to meet with one of the assistant supers on Wednesday. We thought it was about our contracts, and we were correct. When I arrived, the acting superintendent was there with the head of HR. I was told about the elimination of my position, but not the reasons why. I was then given an option for the upcoming school year. I could go back into the classroom, I could work in the district office, or I could apply and interview for the new position that is replacing my job. What on earth? I wouldn't care at all if I was told that my position had been cut completely and I needed to go back into the classroom. I love the classroom. I miss teaching full-time. However, to tell me to apply and interview for a job I already have is BS. We were told to give the district our answers by Friday, and they would draw up contracts or schedule interviews. Wednesday afternoon, I went to see Tony, who is an assistant superintendent and one of the few decent leaders in the school district. I heard from Tony that there was an internal shakeup, but he wasn't allowed to talk about it or even give me a hint about what happened. However, one of the assistant supers was being reassigned, aka demoted, to being the principal of my current school. My principal was not coming back due to health reasons. The superintendent was released from his contract, and my school's new learning coordinator position had already been filled. Who filled it? A school counselor from one of the high schools who just happens to be a friend and lackey of the assistant super that is now the new principal. So early this morning, I gave them my answer. I decided that I didn't need until Friday to decide. I tried to make sure I sounded professional, but I made sure that my message was getting across by speaking with authority. I went into the acting superintendent's office and told him that I thought that laying off a bunch of people so they could hire others to do the same job but at less pay was BS. I told him that the way the school district handled certain situations was idiotic. I then gave several examples. I next told him that he was going to ruin a perfectly good school with an amazing team of educators by putting a lazy, mean, parent-pleasing person in as its new principal and letting her put a lackey in as her second-in-command. I said that she was as useless as a screen door on a submarine and as mean as Dolores Umbridge. I finished the 3-minute speech by stating that I will work very hard and finish the school year strong. I will prep things for the next school year so that the teachers have an easier time. I also let him know I would never work at or recommend the district to anyone ever again. Then I left, letting him know that I expect an amazing letter of recommendation by the end of the school day Friday afternoon, since I earned it for my service the past few years. So what am I going to do now? Well, I called up an old friend Wednesday who's currently a principal at a STEAM charter school that's part of a chain of charter STEAM schools and asked if he had a teaching position available. He's been asking every year for the past 5 years for me to come work for him. He told me he had 3 openings and I could have my pick of them. So next year, I will be a, drumroll please, 6th grade teacher, and I'm very happy about it. I even get to design my curriculum as long as it meets state standards. I could apply elsewhere for admin positions, but I think I need a break from school leadership. I need to love my work again like I used to as a teacher. Yes, there were and are many challenges, and sometimes I hated going to work, but I do love being a teacher. I feel bad for my current staff because the regime change will hit them hard, but there's nothing I can do about it. I wish I could help them. The most I could do would be to take a teaching position at my current school, but then I would be miserable with them and be helpless to do anything to aid them. So for myself and my daughter, who I love more than anything, I'm making the move to a new school and going back to what I enjoy doing, teaching. I'm even bringing my daughter to my new school to start next year as a 5th grader. I asked her if she wanted to stay at her current school or go to the STEAM school with me, and she wants to go with me. She was excited since she has visited there several times and loves the technology room, the robotics class, and the science labs. Plus, she's friends with some of the kids there already. As a goodbye to my other staff, I'm going out this weekend and I'm going to buy some nice letter paper and scratcher tickets. I'm going to write short, individualized goodbyes to each of my staff members, and at the end I will include the following words. I'm giving you some scratcher tickets. My hope is that you are as lucky scratching them as I have been lucky to have worked with you. So that's it. I have to finish my contract, but at the end of June, I'm free. I'm looking forward to teaching full-time again and having a boss who will let me just do my job and not interfere. I don't think I want to work in administration again, but maybe after a few years, I will decide to work as an AP again. Part 2. So I put together goodbye gifts for all of my staff, and I'll be handing them out Friday, their last day with the kids. They have a bunch of goodies that I posted about weeks ago. I was thinking this weekend about how to get revenge on the district office one more time and help my teachers out, even in a small way, so I came up with it Sunday night. My district requires each teacher to attend additional training throughout the year. These are outside of the regular staff development trainings. They're run by district staff, SPED teachers, and admin. The training normally lasts 1 to 3 hours, and the teacher gets a certificate for the time spent in the training. Each teacher is required to attend 24 hours of these before the end of the school year. Most teachers take them over the summer, if they are offered, so they don't have to take them during the school year. So yesterday morning before work, I was making copies of the certificates for all the courses I have run here the past few years. Classroom management strategies, lockdown procedures, social studies strategies, math strategies, reading comprehension, and environmental print. I'm going to fill them out with each of the teachers' names and number of hours. I'm adding all the times I ever spoke to the staff about these topics and putting down hours to correspond, rounding up to the nearest hour. Wouldn't you know, each of these topics was 3 to 5 hours in length. Each staff member will have exactly 24 hours worth of training. I filled out the dates of the training for the 2022 and 2023 school year. Oh, and I have an attendance sheet with all of the names, and I have them marked as being present. Note, I checked with district, and since I'm still an administrator into the summer, I am allowed to run these trainings over the summer before I leave. Now they can have their summer to themselves and not worry about taking classes during the school year. They can if they wish, but 99% of teachers here hate the mandatory training hours. I hope the staff likes the present. Part 3. Since Friday, I am no longer a school administrator. I technically have another week to work, but I took vacation during that time because, well, forget them. Now I spend the last week packing up, giving aid and comfort to my now former staff, and causing problems for the new administrators who are jerks. Now, besides giving the entire staff a year free from additional PDs, I wasn't planning on causing any more problems. Just quietly leave and dry off into the sunset, Shane style. But no, apparently I don't deserve a quiet week. The new principal, demoted from assistant super, and her new teacher on assignment, TOA, decided for some reason to be rude to me. There was only one response I had to that. I aimed to misbehave. How were they rude to me, you ask? First off, they ordered me to hurry and clean out my office. Apparently, the TOA wanted to start redecorating my office. I was literally told,
"Get all your personal stuff out of here ASAP. She wants her office now."
I still had a week to work there and actual work to do. Second, the new principal tried to steal my personal chair and my personal office supplies and decorations. That chair was a gift to me from a friend. I found her just wheeling it out of my office and into hers. My desk supplies and a banner from my wall were stacked on its seat. I told her that it was my personal chair, not the district's. She said, "Okay." The very next morning, I found it missing. She had moved it into her office after I left for the day. Third, I was given a list of tasks to complete by Friday by the TOA, who is in no way, shape, or form my boss. These were not my job to do and are in fact the incoming admin's duty to complete. Stuff the new admin are supposed to do. Things like put together new staff packets, schedule next year's PDs, fill out and submit request forms, etc. Finally, I was talked down to every single day by the new admin team. I was spoken to as though I were the hired help and they were the royal jerks. Seriously, I speak to a waitress that messes up my order with 20 times the amount of respect that they showed me. They actually tried to get my attention by snapping their fingers at me, like that would work. So I decided to do as I was told. I was a soldier, so I knew how to follow orders. 1. I removed everything that was my personal property. That included my chairs, decorations, the stress relievers, punching bag, etc., the fridge from the office, and the file cabinets in my office. Yes, I bought government surplus cabinets because I didn't have any. All my files and all of my former principal's files were in there. I had even bought the manila folder I used in it. So I took every piece of paper out of my cabinets, removed them from my labeled folders, and stacked them on the floor into one large pile. There is no order to how they are stacked. I took my chair from the principal's office while she was in a meeting with parents. I just walked in and rolled it out. She stopped talking to the parents to ask what I was doing, and I responded that I was taking my personal property out ASAP as I was ordered to do. I had an old medium-sized fridge I had placed in the office workroom for office staff to store their food in, but it's mine, so I took the fridge. I brought it right out the front door and loaded it into my truck. I even took the new admin's food out of it and left them on the table. It's my fridge. I warned the rest of the office staff I was taking it, but forgot to tell admin. Darn. I copied all my digital files over to a flash drive and then deleted everything off my work Google Drive. Anything I personally created or designed. I copied all my emails too. I informed the staff that if they need time off next year and need it approved, to submit the forms to me this week. I got several, and they are now all approved. I got this idea from someone who messaged me here on Reddit and suggested I do this. Thanks for the advice. I approved every supply list item the staff submitted and even drove to the district warehouse to pick up some items personally. I even approved funds for a second-hand kiln for the art teacher. She found a good one on Craigslist. I had repaired my desk with bolts and tools from home. I took the bolts back. The desk is now lopsided again. The closet door was broken when I got there, so I repaired it. I have now put it back as it was when I was hired. The two-way mirror to the detention room was mine. I had gotten it from a friend at another school in a different district. It allowed me to watch the detention students from my office without them seeing me. I popped that right out and took it home. Now the TOA has a hole in the wall the detention kids can look through. I had put together all the lockdown budgets and fire drill bags myself with my own money. I took all of them back. This I felt bad about, but I will give them out to the staff at my new school. I put a rush order on all classroom and building repairs and have an approved order to have every classroom repainted. I assembled new staff packets and the new school year binders. Besides the basics of what is required, I have included throughout the binders in random places Dilbert cartoons, famous Harry Potter quotes, the lyrics to Nickelback's How You Remind Me, I Kissed a Girl by Katy Perry, All-Star by Smash Mouth, and We Built This City by Starship. I also included in the binder the admin Wi-Fi password for them since that signal is stronger for some reason. I went ahead and wrote out the PD schedule for next year. Oddly, every Wednesday is listed as free time or work in your classroom. I'm sure they will change it, but I don't know when they will find out what it says. I had a master list of donators and partners in the community. It was posted on a whiteboard in my office. I got over 4 dozen businesses and people in the community to help with various things or donate over the years. I spent a lot of my time building relationships with them and making deals. I took a photo of it and then I erased the list and took the whiteboard since it was mine. Then I got yelled at 3 times. The first time was when I took back my chair. I was told it was unprofessional to just take it without asking, especially with guests present. I responded with, yes, it was unprofessional to take my chair without asking. The second time was when the TOA found the refrigerator gone. She said that it was community property. I told her, no, it's my property, and I was told to take all my property from the campus. The third time was when I was in the parking lot leaving and they found the piles of papers. The principal flagged me down and told me to clean it up. I told her I was off the clock and that the district never reimbursed me for the cabinets, so I had to take them with me. I'm expecting a call from HR today asking for my assistance setting everything back up, since with all my stuff removed and erased, the admin team had to actually put in some hard work. I'd come in for my consultant rate, $75 an hour with a minimum contract for 12 hours. Part 4. The Tuesday after I left, I received a call from HR. I ignored it. I then left for a road trip with my daughter where we went to San Francisco for a few days and went to 2 Giants games. Unfortunately, they lost both games. While we were on our trip, they called and emailed me at my personal email account. My work one was deleted by them. I ignored the calls and never opened the emails. My daughter and I then went to Disneyland for a few days of fun and then returned this past Friday. I then checked the voicemails and emails. I was asked, begged, and then ordered to come to HR for important meetings. It is very important that we speak to you as soon as possible, is what they said repeatedly. So yesterday, I went into the district office wearing cargo shorts, a shirt I got at Disneyland, and flip-flops. I don't work there, so I don't need to dress up. When I arrived, I was originally treated like a visiting VIP. The HR manager and her assistant tried to butter me up like a Pillsbury biscuit. After a few minutes of them trying to make small talk, and me then letting them know I had plans to go to lunch in 30 minutes, they got to the point. They wanted me to turn over a few things took with me that, though they belonged to me, they said were sorely needed at the school. They gave me a list from the new principal, which included, but was not limited to, my chair, seriously, my refrigerator and appliances, my community contacts board, people and businesses that I built relationships and partnerships with, my personally designed forms and worksheets, two-way mirror, my lockdown buckets and fire drill bags. They also wanted copies of every record I kept and notes I took on the staff and students. The notes I took on the staff were so I could personalize gifts for them and have conversations with them on their interests. I said no to all of those requests. I told the ladies that the furniture and appliances were mine that I brought in. I stated that the chair was a gift to me from a friend and that the new principal can afford to buy her own chair. I also stated that I left any official school and district documents there, and any I took with me and or deleted were of my own making and my own intellectual property. I also stated that my contacts were developed over the years of my personal time and at personal cost to me. I also stated that everything I took that I had submitted reimbursement was never reimbursed. I kept my records and pay stubs. I never saw a red cent from those submissions. They offered to pay me for some of the items and gave me a rough figure of what the district would pay me to return the fridge, the forms, buckets, bags, mirror, and contact board. I told them that I did not want to hand them over to the new admin team since they had treated me so poorly. They asked me again and tried to reason that some of those things could be interpreted as school property. I told them that they were welcome to try and force me to return anything that was legally mine to return, but I would be willing to fight it in court. I also told them that those two new administrators made me uncomfortable and that their treatment of me could be considered making a hostile work environment, especially when they tried to make me do their jobs for them. I then gave the HR team my lawyer's info. Note, I dated a lawyer after my divorce a few years ago and we're still good friends, and she has offered herself as my forever retained lawyer, that I can use her name and she'd help me if she could. I rarely use her name, but when I have needed her legal advice, she always comes through. I also help her with physical chores when she or her family needs help. I then wished the lady a good school year in the term to come and left. I doubt I will ever hear from them again.
Shut up and do what I tell you.
Okay, boss. Hello, my home country of Canada just happened to have an incident where Rogers, one of the big three telecommunications companies, accidentally cut off all telecommunications for 25% of Canada, as well as the point-of-sale system for most businesses across the country. This reminded me of a malicious compliance incident that happened during my time working at a call center for a Canadian telecommunications company, and I thought I could share my story. This tale starts all the way back in 2013 and involves my time working at a call center at the fourth largest national cellular carrier. For a little bit of context about Canadian telecommunications, and specifically cell phone services, Canada is the second largest nation on Earth by landmass, with one of the lowest population densities, and the federal government has some strict laws about foreign ownership and financing of telecommunications. As a result of this, cell phone plans are very expensive, and the only companies that offer service are already established large companies with the resources to purchase spectrum and set up infrastructure. My employer was a newcomer to the market and was trying to make a splash by offering lowered price services on the recently auctioned off AWS spectrum. The expensive cell phone plans that were offered in Canada were a real hot button issue. Such a hot button that in the 2011 federal election, all of the major political parties campaigned with the promise to make services better and lower prices. The result of this election was that in 2013, the CRTC, Canadian Radio and Television Commission, revised a bunch of the laws that regulated cell phone providers, specifically cell phone contracts. The updated laws were called the CRTC Code of Conduct. The new wireless code made a bunch of changes, but the most important were that cell phone contracts were required to be written in plain English instead of legalese, and any service advertised as unlimited cannot have an overage charge by law. These new regulations were a very big deal at the time, and employees at the call center I worked at were required to sit through multiple training sessions and take quizzes and tests about this to make sure we knew and understood the new laws. When this was happening, I was working in the back office department in one of the call centers for this cellular carrier. The back office department served several functions, but I had managed to find a niche in the department. I had become responsible for monitoring people's roaming usage when traveling outside of Canada and disconnect them before they get bill shock. At the time, it was not uncommon to find news stories of people coming home from a trip and having an $85,000 phone bill, and I was the sole person responsible for making sure that this didn't happen. Also, I worked part-time 3 days a week. The supervisor of the back office department did not get along with me. He would constantly harass me. I was previously in the technical support department where he was the supervisor when the harassment began. I eventually became frustrated with the way I was being treated and transferred away from technical support to back office so that I could escape from the way he was treating me. A couple of months after I transferred, he transferred too and became my supervisor once again, and it continued. I'm not sure what I did to this person to make them treat me the way that they did, but we had an antagonistic relationship for as long as he was my supervisor. So in 2014, my employer became the first carrier, to my knowledge, to offer unlimited USA roaming. You could pay $15 a month on top of your normal monthly plan and get unlimited roaming in the United States. They also had offered a trucker plan, $35 a month total, that would have unlimited voice, SMS, and data anywhere in North America, and it was marketed directly to long-haul truckers. This add-on and plan were a pretty big deal, as other carriers were charging $2 to $5 per megabyte for data roaming. To my mind, monitoring USA roaming is no longer a high priority, as I can't disconnect people that have this add-on. or appropriate plan because it's against the law. I continue to monitor roaming usage, and every time I see a user with a massive amount of data usage, I go into their account to confirm the existence of the add-on or a plan that would allow for this roaming usage. Once confirmed, I move on to the next account. My focus quickly starts to be focused on people traveling in Europe, Asia, and Africa. There are fewer people roaming in those locations as Canada doesn't share a land border with them, and the data roaming rate is a lot more expensive, to the tune of $20 per megabyte. This is going well for a couple of weeks until my supervisor comes up and asks why I'm not deactivating the accounts traveling in the United States anymore. I attempt to explain that I can't deactivate these customers as they have an appropriate plan or add-on, and if I were to do this, then the company would be in violation of the new laws. We have a back and forth about this, and the discussion ends when he says something to the effect of,
"Just shut up and do what I told you."
"Alright, fine, if that's the way you want to do it. Can you send me an email with those instructions, please?" Normally, I would work at my normal work pace, but that day specifically, I was flying through accounts. I'm not sure how many people I deactivated. I was cutting people off left, right, and center. I went home that night and knew that there would be fallout, and I felt incredibly guilty for negatively affecting the honest customers that were caught in the crossfire of my supervisor's BS. Because I was part-time and only working 3 days a week, I wouldn't see the fallout for 4 more days. When I got back to work, the situation was apparently complete chaos. The entire department had spent the 4 days that I was off trying to reactivate people, and they wouldn't be finished for a couple more days still. I had heard rumors that some people, important people, had threatened lawsuits and all sorts of other things as a result of being cut off when they had purchased plans advertised with unlimited data in the US. The supervisor/manager tried to blame me, but I had the email and witnesses to our conversation to back me up. I don't know if the supervisor got in trouble for this incident. Nothing happened to me over it. I do know that he was eventually promoted to being the general manager of the call center and subsequently fired years later when we brought in a union over the crappy working conditions.
Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video.
Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.